Part 176. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei-Shi Niang. Chapter 1752. On February 13, the New Year's Eve, Lu Ligan followed Wenwen and Qian back to their village. Qian went home, and Lu Ligan followed Wenwen home for the New Year's Eve dinner. When Wenwen's family members saw them coming back, they all greeted them enthusiastically. No one would ask Lu Ligan and Wenwen whether they would get married or when they would have children, but they all agreed with Lu Ligan. He is Wenwen's man, and he is the kind of man who is already a family. Wenwen's younger brother and sister-in-law are called Lu Ligan and they are called brother-in-law. Their 3 children are called Aunt Wenwen and Uncle Lu Ligan. Lu Ligan chuckles and gives red envelopes to the old and young. People are happy. On the night of the first day of the Lunar New Year, after dinner, the 3 of them rushed to town and returned to the upstairs of Qian's supermarket. Tomorrow is their good day, how can they not come back? Lu Ligan felt very calm, while Wenwen and Qian were both excited and nervous. Tomorrow was finally the important day for the opening of their building. How could these 2 diehards not be excited? For so many years, although they have been talking about doing real estate, the actual real estate business seems to start tomorrow. They originally built storefronts for rent. Although renting is somewhat similar to real estate, when they think about it, they don't feel confident. Real estate should be bought and sold, right? Tomorrow we will really start selling houses, haha, this is not real estate, what is real estate? Wenwen and Qian were so excited that they couldn't sleep, so they tortured Lu Ligan again and again. Lu Ligan tried to escape back to his room, but they caught him and refused to let him go. They waited until they were polished outside. At around 6 o'clock, not long after they seemed to have fallen asleep, the 2 of them got up excitedly again. After putting on their makeup, Lu Ligan had to get up too. Lu Ligan looked at his watch and cursed. Are you sick? The market opens at 9 o'clock, why are you up so early? Wenwen and Qian laughed, and Wenwen said, we are just sick and have heart problems. Dr. Lu, please get up and help us. No need to look, Lu Ligan said angrily, there is no cure. Wenwen pretended to be coquettish and said, no, Dr. Lu, you have to do your best and save me. Qian couldn't help but giggle. Please let me sleep for a while, I'm so sleepy, Lu Ligan begged for mercy. No, we're all asleep, so you get up too, Qian said. Lu Ligan didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and asked, what are you getting up for? Get up. Wenwen thought, get up and let's practice. Qian and I are the sales ladies. You play the role of buying a house. Come and buy a house. Go away, you're still yelling at me to come over and buy a house, and I'm here carrying a sack of coins, Lu Ligan asked. Wenwen and Qian both nodded. Wenwen said yes, just come over with a sack of coins. Lu Ligan sighed and continued to beg for mercy, you 2 diehards, just let me sleep for another half hour, okay? Wenwen Qian shook her head. 20 minutes. Wenwen Qian still shook her head together, and Lu Ligan said with a sad face, 10 minutes, just 10 minutes, I'm really too sleepy. No, Qian said. If I don't sleep enough, my brain will be rusty. My brain will be rusty. If I encounter something in the sales department later, my brain will be in a mess and I won't be able to think of a countermeasure. Lu Ligan saw some hesitation on the faces of the 2 people and shouted. Okay, I'll get up and practice with you. At worst, I'll be standing there talking to the person who bought the house, and then I'll close my eyes and fall asleep. Lu Ligan got ready, but Wenwen held him down and said to him, okay, you can sleep for another hour and a half. At 8 o'clock, we will make breakfast and call you. Lu Li fell down, feeling secretly happy in his heart, and said proudly, Humph, you are still a little too young to fight with me. He had already fallen asleep before he finished thinking about the words tender. This old cow was really sleepy and tired. Ween Wen and Qian went out and gently closed the door. The two of them went to the living room outside and sat down. Without the male protagonist to cooperate with them, their excitement also passed. The two of them sat there, yawning one after another. After a while, Ween Wen leaned over and fell asleep on the sofa. Qian stood up to take a look, walked into her room, and took out a quilt. Cover Ween Wen. Then, Qian walked back to her room, stood in front of the bed and looked at the cold bed, and immediately lost the courage to get in. She took the alarm clock and set it to 8 o'clock as she walked, and walked back to Ween Wen's room. He took off his clothes, got into Lu Ligan's bed, and fell asleep soon. The three of them were eating fish meal at home. No one said anything, but they all imagined that the sales office should be crowded with people now. Xiahua and the cashier would soon be unable to cope with it, and Xiahua would have to call for help. While thinking this way, Ween Wen subconsciously looked at the mobile phone on her desk. After finishing the fish meal, it was already 8:40, but Ween Wen and Qian pretended to be calm and deliberately delayed it for another 10 minutes. In fact, they did nothing during these 10 minutes. Even the bowls were spread out on the table and no one went there. To wash, Lu stood up and put it away, then went to the sink to wash. Lu Ligan looked at these two diehards and felt funny in his heart. After washing the dishes, he sat down on the sofa, took out a cigarette and started smoking. Ween Wen cursed, "Oh, don't smoke." Lu Ligan rolled his eyes at her and yelled back, "This is not your room, so you can't smoke here." Ween Wen opened her mouth and was speechless. Lu Ligan knew that these two diehards were holding on, and they were all waiting for him to urge them to leave. Lu Ligan deliberately did not ring, and the old god sat on the ground. At 8:50, he took out another. Ween Wen was ready to smoke a cigarette when she finally couldn't help it anymore and shouted, "Oh, I'm so annoyed. I smoke on the road." As soon as Ween Wen said this, Qian immediately jumped up from the sofa and shouted, "Let's go, let's go." The three of them went downstairs, exited the Qian supermarket and walked towards the center of the street. On the morning of the second day of the Lunar New Year, the street was empty. Everyone was still sleeping under the covers. They should buy things that should be prepared at home. We have already prepared. Who would go out on the streets at this time? Even going out on the streets is useless. The shops on both sides of the street are closed until the 6th day of the lunar month. Even Ween Wen supermarket and Qian supermarket don't open until after 12 o'clock. There is no way because of insufficient manpower. They can only open for 5.5 hours from 12 o'clock to 4:30 every afternoon to satisfy themselves. Old customers. When the three of them were about to reach the sales department, their hearts were already filled with chills. Ween Wen Qian huddled behind Lu Ligan in embarrassment. Although no one was looking at them, they still felt their faces were burning with embarrassment. "I can't even move forward." They saw that the door of the makeshift sales office was open, but the crowds of people they imagined did not appear, and there was not a single ghost. Lu Ligan's heart skipped a beat, but he quickly calmed down. He took a step back and got in between Ween Wen Qian. At this time, it was not Ween Wen Qian holding his arm, but him. "Put your arms around their shoulders and walk forward." There are still more than 10 meters of road, which seems to be quite long to Ween Wen Qian. She feels like she is walking to the execution ground and will be shot next. They walked to the sales office and saw two tables placed on the left and right of the door, with Xiahua and the cashier sitting behind them. They had placed the tables almost outside on the street so that people could sit in the sun and enjoy the wind. There was no wind again, so the two of them put one hand into the sleeve of the other, basking in the sun with their sleeves covered. The feet wearing cotton shoes were tapping on the ground. It was too cold. Seeing them coming, the two of them looked at them with pitiful expressions. Even if everyone met for the first time in the first month of the first month, they would definitely say Happy New Year, but no one thought of saying it. Just like this, you looked at me, I looked at you, and finally looked at Lou Ligon. Lou Ligon walked to the sales office. There was a sandbox inside. This sandbox was also temporarily driven out by the advertising company under the guidance of Lou Ligon. One side of the sandbox was a model of the building, and the other side was a two-story building. Market stall model. Lou Ligon looked at it and asked the cashier calmly, "Are the little red flags ready?" The cashier was almost crying when she said, "Ready." I was thinking in my heart, it's useless to prepare it. The so-called little red flag, what Lou Ligon told the cashier in advance was that after someone reserved a stall, he would insert a small red flag in the model of the stall, so that people behind him could tell at a glance that those stalls had been reserved. Lou Ligon then asked Xiahua, "What about you?" Xiahua said with a cry, "I'm fine too." Xiahua also prepared a small red flag here, but it was self-adhesive. On the wall of the sales office, there was a schematic diagram of the floors. Lou Ligon told Xiahua that if he sold one house, he would put a sticker on it. A small red flag. Lou Ligon looked at these four faces. He felt that they must be the four ugliest faces in the town on the second day of the Lunar New Year. How could this work? Lou Ligon asked them, "There is no short circuit in the brain, right? Do you remember what you should say when guests come?" The four people nodded. Lou Ligon walked out into the sunshine on the street, looked at both ends of the empty street, turned around, clapped his hands, and smiled at them. "Okay, they should be getting up now. People who buy houses and rent stalls are dragging their families and are coming towards us." The four people stared at Lou Ligon. They couldn't laugh at it. They were almost crying. Lou Ligon and Wen Wenqian said, "By the way, when guests come, let Xiahua and the others deal with them. The three of us will pretend that we are here to buy a house. We will watch around the sand table. You are responsible for asking little questions, and you are responsible for praising this house and stall, do you understand?" Lou Ligon then said to Xiahua and the cashier, "There are guests here. Don't be too enthusiastic. If they don't come to you, don't pay attention to them. Be arrogant and pretend that you don't want to buy. Do you understand? Thank you Huhu and Quadratic VC for the reward. Thank you to Huhu, Jinwu Lanji, Fable Myth, Once Upon a Mountain, and Book Friend 16112223501799 for your monthly votes. Thanks for all the votes and reading. Good evening everyone. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1753. The atmosphere in the sales department was a bit depressing. Except for Lou Ligon, the other four people were silent. They watched Lou Ligon walk in and out. Only when he asked them something or said something to them, they answered in a dull tone or two. On the morning of the second day of the Lunar New Year, the whole street and the whole town seemed to be still sleeping soundly and not waking up. In this morning when everyone was resting, silence enveloped the whole town. The empty streets were not only there were no people or cars, not even a dog. Lou Ligon stood in the middle of the street and looked at both ends. He felt that there was no obstruction today and his line of sight was very good. He could see very far and seemed to be able to see both ends of the street. However, no matter how far he looked, he did not see a single figure. Lou Ligon took out his cigarette, lit it, and stood in the middle of the street, smoking. His heart tightened, but he was still unwilling to admit that he was wrong, and that he would be so wrong. To be honest, he was not sure about the purchasing power of this town, but he felt that this 18-story house was of sufficient weight. It should weigh heavily on the hearts of everyone in the town, but he had no desire to buy it. It's impossible for them to not even be curious, right? The people in this town, who were constantly coming to watch and chattering in front of the billboards a few days ago, really have no interest at all in what is being sold here or what stalls are being rented? Or is it that their curiosity has ended in chattering? After smoking a cigarette, Lou Ligon sighed secretly. He walked back to the sales department. In the sales department, no one made a sound. Only the wall clock on the wall kept ticking. In this depressing atmosphere, the sound of the clicking second hand is particularly loud, which reminds them that time is passing by second by second. The sales department was so quiet that it made people feel particularly cold. Lou Ligon still walked out and stood in the sunshine in the middle of the street. He looked towards the other end of the street, his eyes widened. He saw a man riding a bicycle towards the other end of the street. Hope ignited in Lou Ligon's heart. All the stores on this street were closed. Look, this person is probably here for them. When the man rode closer, Lou Ligon sighed inwardly. He was more disappointed than disappointed. What he saw was the person he least wanted to see. The man riding over was actually Manager Lin. He must also be concerned about the stall here. I woke up early and ran over to check on the rental situation. This was humming embarrassing, he was about to be slapped in the face. Lou Ligon felt his face getting hot first. Manager Lin waved to Lou Lepole from afar and shouted loudly, "How are you, Boss Lou?" How to answer this question? Lou Ligon could only smile at him and remain silent. Manager Lin quickly rode up in front of him. He got out of the car with one step of his right leg. The front wheel almost hit the Lou Lepole. He quickly braked because he got off the car and braked too quickly. The person and the car were unstable and were about to go. Falling to one side, Lou Ligon quickly grabbed the handle of the car and helped him stand. Thank you, Manager Lin said. Manager Lin parked his car under the giant building advertisement. He didn't have time to lock the chain, so he walked towards the sales department and continued to ask the cashier, "How is it?" The cashier smiled bitterly and shook his head. Manager Lin said, it's okay. No one has gotten up yet. I didn't see anyone on the way here. Last night was the first day of the Lunar New Year. Who was not playing cards and mahjong at home and only went to bed at dawn? Who would be like this? Get up early. Lou Ligon smiled and said, "You Ningyuan people like playing mahjong so much. Not only people from Ningyuan, but also people from Chenzhou, Yangzhou, Yueyang, and Changsha. Which Hunanese doesn't like playing mahjong? Hunanese are either mahjong or mapo," Manager Lin said. "Come on, Boss Lou." Manager Lin greeted Lou Ligon and said, "Last night, my old cousin told me to leave a stall for him. You can help me see which stall is better." Lou Ligon actually didn't know much about stalls, but since Manager Lin asked, he pointed to the row of stalls at the entrance on the first floor, the one closest to the head, and said, "This is it? Okay, come here." Manager Lin greeted the cashier. The cashier got up and walked over. Manager Lin said to her, "Leave this to me." The cashier said yes, took a small red flag stuck on a round-headed pin, and inserted it into the stall. Qian said, "It's better for you, it's already open." The cashier curled his lips and muttered, "Bad check, and I didn't see the money." Manager Lin glared at her and was about to scold her when three people came in from outside. A fashionably dressed girl and a middle-aged man and woman. The middle-aged man and woman must be her parents at first glance. Lou Ligon glanced at this girl and knew that she was not a local product, but came back from other places. As for what she did in other places, not only Lou Ligon knew it, but Wen Qian also knew it. Speaking of it, this still their juniors. The girl led her parents to the sand table. She looked around and asked, "Who can help me introduce the room type?" Lou Ligon forgot what he had just told Xiahua and the cashier. When guests came, he and Wen Qian had agreed to pretend to be customers. Lou Ligon took a step forward and said to the girl, Let me introduce it to you. Lu Ligan was good at introducing the house at the beginning. He talked about feng shui and orientation, and then carefully analyzed the advantages and disadvantages of each floor and each house. He spoke clearly and logically. The girl thought for a moment and said, "Okay, I'll buy a set and you help me choose." 1501 Lu Ligan blurted out. The girl nodded, "Okay, then 1501. There was actually a selling price posted on the wall, but the girl still asked Lu Ligan, "How much does it cost per square meter?" 1,708, let's all pay it together, Lu Ligan said. "Can't you get a discount?" the girl asked. "If you hit it, you can't send it out," Lu Ligan said. The girl burst into laughter. "Okay, let's do it together." The girl's parents were frightened, and her mother quickly asked Lu Ligan, "How much does this house cost?" 1,501, the area is 112 square meters, the total price is 199,360 yuan, less than 200,000 yuan. Lu Ligan blurted out without even using a calculator. The girl nodded and said, "Awesome." The girl's mother quickly pulled the girl's sleeve and said, "It's too expensive, 200,000. The girl shook her head. "Do you know how much a square meter of a house costs in Yuwa where I live? It's more than 20,000. You can buy a house here, but you can only buy a toilet in Yuwa. How expensive is it? I think this house can be built. It's more beautiful than the one in Yuwa." Lu Ligan understood that this female hero turned out to be from a KTV in Yuwa. Lu Ligan gave her a thumbs up and said, "Good insight." The girl pursed her lips and smiled and asked, "When will the house be handed over?" "At the end of this year, when you come back for the spring festival, you can have New Year's Eve dinner in the new house," Lu Ligan said. The girl glanced at him and said angrily, "No need to decorate." Lu Ligan smiled and said, "The decoration will not affect the New Year's Eve dinner. You can have the New Year's Eve dinner here, enjoy the excitement of the new house, and then go back to sleep after eating." The girl giggled, turned her head and asked, "Can you swipe credit cards here?" Lu Ligan quickly said yes, yes. "Okay, I'll swipe my card then," the girl said. Lu Ligan led them to Xiahua. Watching Xiahua finish swiping her card and Wenwen signing a house purchase agreement with her, Lu Ligan was relieved and happy. He cursed himself in his heart for being useless. "I have never seen you so happy when I sold a building before. However, I immediately told myself that you should be happy at this moment and at this moment." The girl signed the house purchase agreement and gave her share to her mother to put away. Instead of leaving, she walked back to the sand table, looked at the model of the building, and asked Lu Ligan to point out to them what 1501 was in the building. "Place." Lu Ligan told them, and the girl nodded with satisfaction. She looked at her parents. All three of them smiled. Then they looked at the models in the market nearby. The girl asked, "How do you rent out the stalls here?" Lu Ligan told her that the annual rent is 4,500 yuan, which is paid once a year. Now she needs to pay a deposit of 2,000 yuan first, and there will be another 2,500 yuan to be paid when the stall is handed over. After hearing the girl asking about the stall, Manager Lin and the cashier also came over. The girl and her parents said, "Then we also reserve a stall." The girl's mother hurriedly said, "Your father and I don't know how to do business. We don't know what to do with this stall." Lu Ligan said, "Auntie, there is nothing difficult about doing business. No businessman will ever come to a meeting. Although the products sold here are small commodities, they are actually the same as selling vegetables and grains. They all pay with one hand. Single hand delivery." "That's right," the girl said, "from now on, you will live upstairs and do business downstairs every day, so you don't have to go back to the village. It doesn't matter what those people gossip or gossip. Am I not in Yuwu? I don't have anything during the day for business, you can go to Yuwo Market every day to purchase goods. Whatever you want to sell here, I can consign it from Yuwo. You don't even have to worry about purchasing goods, just sell them. This elder brother is right. No matter how big the Yuwo people are doing now, they were not all farming like you a few years ago. It seems that even though this girl is rich, her parents still feel pressured in the village because of her wealth and fashion. The girl's parents were convinced. The girl stared at the sand table. She pointed to the stall with the little red flag and said, "This stall is good. Has anyone reserved this stall yet?" The cashier looked at Manager Lin, who said, "Give it to her, give it to her, it doesn't matter where my cousin has any customers." Lu Ligan smiled and said, "Did you see, Beauty, your filial piety has moved Mr. Lin so much that he gave you all the stalls reserved for himself." The girl turned her head and smiled brightly at Manager Lin, "Thank you, Mr. Lin." The girl then went to the cashier and paid 2,000 to book the stall. While the cashier was writing the receipt, he thought to himself, "Great, now there is no need to put a red flag." The girl took her parents away, and everyone here was happy. Xiahua clapped her hands and said, "Now, our two families are really open." Manager Lin said, "Let's see if what I said is right. People are just getting up now." Lu Ligan finally understood. It turns out that here, not only the people selling houses are inexperienced, but the buyers are also inexperienced. They don't know that they have to be early to buy a house. Which building is there, the room type and floor, it will definitely sell more. The worse. Wen Wen and Qian walked to Lu Ligan, and Qian said angrily, "Damn it, is it so easy to make money in KTV now?" Lu Ligan smiled and said, "Yes, this is the Yangtze River where the waves behind push the waves ahead. You were photographed on the beach, are you envious?" "Go away," Qian scolded. Lu Ligan remembered that he asked Xiahua to put small red flags on all the houses on the 15th and 16th floors. Xiahua asked puzzledly, "Why, didn't they put them up after they were sold?" "Idiot, these two floors are the best and must be the best sellers. Sell the other floors first and sell these two floors last," Lu Ligan said. "Also, after selling, there must be if an acquaintance wants to come to you to open the back door, you can't give him a discount, but you can give him a good floor inside. In this way, you also give him face." Xiahua nodded and understood. The cashier's mind was spinning quickly. As soon as he heard this, he quickly took the small red flag and put it on several stalls near the door. Manager Lin was listening and didn't understand, so he asked Lu Ligan, "In this 18-story building, why is the 15th or 16th floor the best, not the 17th or 18th floor?" Lu Ligan looked at him and said, "Of course, the higher the building, the wider the view. The 15th and 16th floors have a wide view, but why not the 17th and 18th floors? For houses on the top floor, one has to worry about water leaks, which will be very troublesome to repair. And another one is safety consideration. To thieves, the houses on the 17th and 18th floors are the same as those on the first and second floors. One goes up from below and the other comes down from the top." Oh, Manager Lin suddenly realized, and he said, "I didn't expect that there are so many details in selling a house. However, Boss Lu, I have experienced that your eloquence in business will be said to be alive by you even if it is dead of." Wen Wen scolded, "No wonder, did you just think that the little girl was beautiful, that's why you gave her 1501. Qian said, "That's right. I'm jealous, I'm jealous." Manager Lin kept smiling, "Boss Lu, your two wives are jealous." Lu Ligan glared at Wen Wen and Qian, "I was trying to grab the jackpot, why are you not happy?" Wen Wen and Qian laughed, and Wen Wen said, "I don't care, as long as she is willing to buy a house, put you in and sell it, I am also willing." Everyone laughed. At this moment, someone came in from outside the door. Xiahua just stood up to greet them. There were new people coming from behind. Wenwen and Qian quickly walked over to follow them. Lu Ligan went out to take a look, and saw 3 or 4 people standing in front of the billboard to watch the excitement. He looked at both ends of the street, haha, the whole street had come to life, and there were people on both sides. Lu Ligan concluded that these people were all coming towards him. Thank you Zenkang Hie, Quadratic VC, and the reward of 2 fishes at 3 o'clock in the middle of the night. Thank you for your monthly votes from Zenkang Hie, Evergreen Yan Dotty, Galaxy, Humorous Tribe, Hoo, QTDJB, Taizongshan 1, Hydrogen Oxide Disinfection Knowledge Bureau, Dachuan, Major 7, Zizhiw, and Tamagotchi. Thanks for all the votes and reading. I wish you all good health. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1754. After 12 o'clock at noon, the sales department was already crowded with people inside and outside. Manager Lin had to call people from the unit to come over and help maintain order. There were many people watching the excitement, and there were also many people buying and ordering. There were also people watching the excitement. At first, they were just looking at it, but after seeing it, they couldn't hold it in anymore. Seeing that everyone else was buying, he also bought it, especially for those stalls. The deposit is only 2,000 yuan, so you just grit your teeth and decide what to sell. Who will sell it? It will take nearly a year to slowly add up. Lu Ligan's judgment of the customers who bought houses and reserved stalls was correct. Most of them were working in other places. Both of these people's couples were working outside. Their wages were also high in recent years. After a few years of frugality, they could earn 200,000 to 300,000 yuan. I still had some money, and I originally planned to save the money to build a new house. Unexpectedly, when I returned to the town, I actually got an 18-story house. What's more important is that these people work in coastal provinces. They see the rising housing prices in the places where they work. In those places, housing prices have already exceeded 10,000 yuan, and they can't even see the price. Compared with the house price in the place where they worked, this house in the town was 1,781 square meters. According to the little girl who came back from Yuwu, it was really cheap. It is better to build a new house in the village than to buy a house in the town. In the future, it will be more convenient for the elderly to see a doctor and for children to go to school. People tend to go to higher places, so they spend the money they prepare to build a house on the streets of the town. Buying a house is both affordable and respectable. It was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and Lu Ligan and the others had not eaten yet. They were so hungry that their chests were pressed against their backs. The streets nearby were closed. Manager Lin called a chef and told him to go home and cook it. Sent over. The chef looked at him and said, "My wife will curse if I burn all the New Year goods prepared at home." You, just think that I'm going to your house for dinner. I'm going to your house as a guest. Are you going to invite me? Manager Lin said. The chef was stunned, and Manager Lin continued to scold, "Tell your wife, if you don't flatter me, I will let you be the last one when the house is divided, and I will give you the worst house." "What if I cook?" the chef asked. "Even if you have contributed, I will let you be the first to smoke," Manager Lin said. The chef chuckled, "That's okay, we agreed, don't be a slut when forced." The chef ran out. After more than half an hour, a family including his wife and son arrived with food. Manager Lin quickly called Lu Ligan and Wenwen to come over and eat first, and then change the food for Xiahua and the others. Several people talked too much and their voices were a little hoarse, but they were happy in their hearts. Half, Manager Lin said, "Half of our stalls have been reserved, and we have made more than 200,000 yuan. Haha, I have worked in this shabby restaurant for more than 7 years, and there has never been such a day of income. Whether it is a house or a stall, it will become easier to sell and rent as time goes by. At the beginning, when a person comes to buy a house and sees that there are so many houses, he will carry it, and you will go after he carries it. Coax him and convince him, even though your mouth is dry, he is still hesitant and hesitant. Even when he finally decided to buy, he looked reluctant when paying. Later, the number of stalls and houses became less and less, and the atmosphere of looting became a bit more intense. Those who bought houses and rented stalls began to panic, fearing that their good houses and stalls would be robbed. Without saying a few words, they quickly take action. Besides, the fact that so many people are buying and placing orders creates psychological pressure and hints for people, indicating that the price is not expensive at all and there is nothing to hesitate about. However, at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, all 214 of Manager Lin's stalls were empty, except for 8 that Manager Lin wanted to stay. The girl who was the first to buy a house in the morning came with another little sister at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The little sister was just like her and dressed very fashionably. They should be heroes from the same origin. This little sister came not to buy a house, but to reserve a stall. When she opened her mouth, Manager Lin was shocked. She said she wanted 20. The cashier told her that there were only 14 left in total. She said, "Give it all to me." In this way, the last batch of stalls were all packed away. She didn't even ask specifically where the stalls were, nor did she seem to care. Manager Lin was dumbfounded. He asked Lu Ligan if anyone could book a stall like this. Lu Ligan smiled and said, "What's weird about this? She is a stall owner. She is in Yuwu. Maybe she has many friends who have opened shops in the commodity city. She knows the value of the stalls." Manager Lin nodded and understood. The stalls were all booked, and Manager Lin and the cashier were about to close the stall. He told Lu Ligan, "You continue to sell, and I will have dinner delivered to you." Lu Ligan quickly said, thank you, Mr. Lin." "Boss, there's no one left. You still call me Mr. Lin, and I'm in charge of about 20 people. Do I have to get up?" Manager Lin said, and walked away with the cashier with a smile on his face. When he walked outside, he heard him curse, you." Lu Ligan thought something had happened and ran out quickly. It turned out that the bicycle that Manager Lin had been leaning against the billboard that morning had been stolen. Lu Ligan laughed loudly, patted Manager Lin on the shoulder and said, "Yes, you are a blessing and a curse." Manager Lin chuckled, "With him, the stalls are all booked. Even if he steals 10 bicycles, it's still worth it. How much does a bicycle cost?" "Great," Lu Ligan gave him a thumbs up. When Lu Ligan came back, Wen Wen and Qian both looked at him and smiled stupidly. They had a total of 144 houses and had sold 51 of them. They planned to open until 8 o'clock in the evening, although the crowd was already gradually getting better. If they go less, they believe they can still sell 1 or 2 units. It's almost dinner time, and the people in the sales department have finally left. On these days, buying a house and watching the excitement is a big deal, and having dinner is also a big deal. There are still a lot of guests at home. "Finally free," Wen Wen said. "Weird." "What's weird?" Qian asked. "In the morning, I stared at the door. At that time, as long as one person came in, I could call him Dad. Now, why am I hoping that no one will come in again and let me have a good rest?" Wen Wen said. Qian and Xiahua also laughed. Qian said, "Me too." Lu Ligan sat aside and smoked. He looked at the wall. The renderings and promotional materials of the market were still posted on the wall. Lu Ligan and Wen Wen said, "The stalls are all reserved, take these down." The 3 of them were sitting there, No one was too lazy to move. Wenwen said, I'm exhausted. Let's talk tomorrow. Lazy bitch, Lu Ligan cursed, stood up with a cigarette in his mouth, and went to tear it up himself. The three women looked at him and laughed. Don't tear it, don't tear it. Manager Lin rode his bicycle and rushed to the door. He saw Lu Ligan tearing up the materials on the wall and shouted quickly. He threw the bicycle away and ran in. He took 2 steps and then stepped back. He simply picked up the bicycle and pushed it in. Keep it, Boss Lu, Manager Lin called. Lu Ligan turned around and looked at him and asked, You have already booked your stall, why do you still keep this? Manager Lin chuckled and said, Of course I will continue to sell the stall. Selling the 8 you keep for yourself? Do you really not care, old Biao? Lu Ligan asked. 8? Of course it's more than 200. Boss Lu, I don't care. I'm relying on you today. You must help me get this done, Manager Lin said. It turned out that when Manager Lin returned home, all the stalls in the market had been booked. Such a good thing, of course he had to call immediately, report to the manager of the county catering service company, and wish him a happy new year. Unexpectedly, as soon as the manager heard what was going on, he started to curse. He cursed everything from pigs to idiots to woodblocks and fools, and he kept talking. Manager Lin was baffled by the scolding. After scolding him, the manager asked him, 2 stalls with more than 900,000 yuan in rental income, or net, where can your shabby restaurant make more than 900,000 yuan a year? Of course not. It would be great if we could cover everyone's salary in 1 year. The manager also knows the situation here. Why do you ask? Manager Lin was also a little annoyed. He said, Is it possible that you don't know? I know, so I won't think like a pig like you. The manager continued to scold, since the market stalls are in short supply and you can't make money by opening a restaurant, why do you keep the half? Why don't you use it too? Turn it into a stall. Manager Lin was enlightened and finally came to his senses. Yes, why not also use it to open the market? Opening the market would save more worries. Manager Lin asked, Is it okay, boss? We are a unit under the beverage and service company. What's wrong? Who will take care of us when we can't pay wages? The manager said, As long as you don't open casinos, brothels, or opium dens, you can open anything, as long as you can make money. Manager Lin quickly said, Yes, I will immediately convene a meeting with everyone to discuss it. It's a waste of discussion, the manager scolded, You and I can just decide on this matter. Implement it right away. Just take advantage of the heat to book all the stalls. But those chefs and waiters. What's wrong with the chefs and waiters? They can't change their careers to be security guards. They get a lot of salary and a new house. Why don't they want to? If anyone doesn't want to, let him come to my place and I'll make him the manager. Give it to him, and I'll share a house with you. Damn it, I'm still a second-level chef. The manager scolded her again, and the matter was settled. Yes, you are a good manager, Lu Ligan praised. Yeah, it's so easy to run a market, and also run a restaurant, and you still don't make money. Your manager is very good at this. By the way, Manager Lin, like this, once you come here, you really become the general manager of the market, Mr. Lin. Manager Lin chuckled, Boss Lu, you must help me. We will draw up the floor plan tonight and continue to attract investment tomorrow. When we finish it in the evening, I will treat you to a supper. I have asked them to prepare it. Lu Ligan said yes. Thank you Quadratic VC for the reward. Thank you Captain Jim, Li Rujin, don't see a future, just remember your original intention, Protostop and Dong Long Dong for your monthly votes. Thanks for all the votes and reading. I wish you a nice weekend. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1755. Lu Ligan helped manager Lin recalculate the size and row position. Fortunately, they had white paper and pens in the supermarket and could use them as soon as they were brought. Otherwise, there would be no place to buy them on days like this. While Lu Ligan and manager Lin were drawing, manager Lin thought of it and asked, "By the way, Boss Lu, since so many people want this stall, can we directly set the stall fee to 5,000 a year tomorrow?" Lu Ligan smiled and said, "Look, the true nature of this profiteer will come out soon." Manager Lin chuckled, "Who doesn't want to make more money?" Lu Ligan said, "This is really not profitable. Don't underestimate the 500 yuan. Many people may hesitate because of the 500 yuan. When more people hesitate, this popular product will become unsaleable. The price is still set at 4,500. If you want to adjust it, wait until they come in and adjust it again next year. Didn't I tell you?" "I know, the pigs are put into the pen before being slaughtered, right?" Manager Lin asked. "This profiteer is really smart," Lu Ligan said, and manager Lin smiled proudly. The next day, the stall continued to be reserved. The cashier called the girl who came last yesterday and told her that after urgent discussions, we decided to use all the places where we originally planned to open a restaurant to build stalls. Today, there are stalls again. I'll be the first to call you. The girl came over immediately and booked 10 more stalls. But for today's 10 stalls, Lu Ligan helped her choose the location. The girl who was the first to buy a house yesterday came with her, and she also booked 3 more stalls. Lu Ligan looked at the 2 girls and thought to himself, these girls from Ningyuan are really brave. Their daring energy is really like those years when they risked being caught and beaten to go back to Haikan to speculate. Wenwen and Qian from the off-the-plan apartment. Manager Lin's new stall has been fully booked in 2 days, and the 15th day of the first lunar month has not yet passed, and Lu Ligan's house has also been sold out. Wenwen and Qian settled the accounts and told Lu Ligan, if we deduct the money to be paid to the construction company, we can still earn more than 9 million? Lu Ligan said, it's not that much. After deducting taxes and other things, it's about 6 to 7 million. Wenwen and Qian became excited and shouted, no wonder we want to do real estate. It turns out that real estate is so profitable. Lu Ligan laughed. This was a good profit. During the annual real estate fair, the price would be adjusted to more than 2,000 square meters. Lu Ligan warned Wenwen and Qian, don't be arrogant and keep a low profile. Anyway, there is Chen Yong outside. You know, we are just small supermarket owners. Wenwen said. Lu Lepole nodded, that's right. With such a sum of money in hand, Lu Ligan felt a lot more at ease. At least he didn't have to worry about other projects. Work suddenly stopped because the funds couldn't keep up. Although they were all advance funding projects, when that time came, he had to put the project aside. Take it back. Fortunately, such a thing has never happened, and Lu Ligan had to be grateful for his good luck. This project was sold out, and other projects were being carried out quickly. By the end of the year, Ningyuan also began to officially implement land bidding, auction, and listing. Lu Ligan had a premonition that his good days were coming to an end. Moreover, with the bidding, auction, and listing, as the market continues to expand, regulatory measures for all aspects of the real estate market will also become stricter. Taking advantage of the wave of rising housing prices at the end of the year, Lu Ligan launched all the projects in his hands. Even if the price was lower and the money was less, he would launch them. Wenwen and Qian didn't understand this. Lu Ligan told them that in Ningyuan, the days when building houses and selling them were guaranteed to make a profit, and those who were engaged in real estate would not make any money, and they could only make a profit if they lost money. Very normal. You mean, our days of doing real estate are over? Wenwen asked. Lu Lepole nodded. Why are we so unlucky? Other real estate companies have just opened, and we are about to close, Qian said. Lu Ligan told them, the next days will be when real estate companies start to fail. He knew that these two diehards were unwilling to give up, so he asked them, have you made any money? Of course I made a profit, Ween Wen said. How much did you make? About more than 60 million in total, Ween Wen said. Isn't it enough to have more than 60 million in your pocket and be your supermarket owner with peace of mind? Ween Wen and Qian looked at each other, pursed their lips, and Ween Wen asked, what about you? You also have your share of the money. I don't want money. I belong to you. If you want any more money, I beg you. Please don't mention real estate to me in the future, okay? I also need to rest. I have been so busy for more than a year. It's quite embarrassing, Lu Ligan said. Of course, I won't be idle. If I see any good projects, I will help you with them, Lu Ligan comforted them again, otherwise these two diehards would not give up. Ween Wen nodded and said, okay, we will listen to you. Lu Ligan was ready to retreat. He was thinking about the retreat path. When he went to the company, he saw that Chen Yong was a little evasive when he saw him. He understood in his heart that this guy who said he would never do anything wrong to him was ready to rebel. This is normal, no matter how firm the promise sounds. How can it be worth the free money? Besides, for more than a year, Lu Ligan knew that this guy had been a puppet in front of him, and he knew that he had been unconvinced. In this society, everyone who fails either laments that his talents are not recognized, or thinks that he has bad luck, bad opportunities, and bad background. Few people think that other people's opportunities and luck are also created by themselves, and those who are truly capable people allow themselves to become the background of others, not the other way around. Lu Ligan found some connections and asked them to help him understand. He found out that he was a mining boss who was planning to set up a real estate company. He wanted to recruit Chen Yong to become the boss. Who asked them to let Tianyi Real Estate Company be the most famous in Ningyuan. A real estate company, and Chen Yong is the general manager of this company. The mine owner doesn't know that Chen Yong, the general manager, is just a feint. He probably thought that by using his own funds and poaching the best general manager of Ningyuan's real estate company, he would immediately become the best real estate developer in Ningyuan. Lu Ligan called Chen Yong to his office and asked directly, how did your discussion with Boss Mu go? When Chen Yong heard Lu Ligan's words, his face turned pale. Boss Mu was the mine boss. Chen Yong knew that his affair was exposed and there was no point in denying it. He stammered. Brother. Lu Ligan stared at him and remained silent. Chen Yong changed his words, Mr. Lu, yes, they came to me. I haven't promised them yet. Really, you have to believe me. It doesn't matter whether I believe it or not. Lu Ligan smiled faintly. Do you still remember that I once told you that one day I will let you hold your head up high and make you look good? Now, someone has taken it. I have a lot of cash and want to come to you for cooperation. Don't you already have a lot of face? Chen Yong nodded repeatedly and said, yes, thank you, Mr. Lu. Don't be nervous. I have no other intention of looking for you. I also know that you have been in the presence of the general manager for more than a year, but you feel very aggrieved. I understand. If it were me, I would do the same. Lu Ligan looked at Chen Yong and said, Chen Yong, I'm not here to find out what you discussed with Boss Mu, but I want you to do me a favor. How can I help you? Tell me, Mr. Lu. You help me make an appointment with Boss Mu. I want to talk to him. How about transferring the shell of Tianyi Real Estate Co., Limited to him, Lu Ligan said. Chen Yong was startled and looked at Lu Ligan blankly. This company was in trouble. Why was it about to be transferred? Could it be because of himself? Others don't know, but Chen Yong knows very well in his heart that he is nothing in this company, and the company does not run on himself. Why, Mr. Lu? Chen Yong asked. Lu Ligan gave him a reasonable reason. Lu Ligan said. Shenzhen has been urging me to go back. I have stayed in these mountains and valleys for long enough. I also want to go back to Shenzhen. Chen Yong nodded and understood. He believed Lu Ligan's words. Lu Ligan was a big fish, how could he be kept in a small pond like Ningyuan? Chen Yong said, okay, Mr. Lu, then I will make an appointment for you. Lu Lizan nodded, thank you, we'd better hurry up on this matter. Chen Yong said yes, stood up, and went out. Lu Ligan knew that he was not going to help him make an appointment with Boss Mu, but to try his best to persuade Boss Mu to buy the shell of Tianyi Real Estate Company. Lu Ligan connected with him. You can imagine what you would say to Boss Mu. Chen Yong will definitely tell Boss Mu that Tianyi Real Estate Co., Limited is now the first real estate brand in Ningyuan. This is a huge intangible asset. After acquiring it, we will be the number one in Ningyuan. Next, we will develop each real estate project will attract more attention than other projects. This can save us a lot of advertising fees on the one hand. Secondly, the price of our properties can be set higher than that of other companies. Lu Ligan knew that Chen Yong would also tell Boss Mu that the most important thing is that as long as we acquire Tianyi Real Estate Co., Limited, he would not say that Lu Ligan was the boss behind Tianyi, but he would tell Boss Mu that Lu Yang he is a very powerful person. He is Wenwen and Kinkin's consultant. After acquiring Tianyi, Lu Yang will leave Ningyuan and go to Shenzhen. He would threaten Boss Mu and say that one mountain cannot accommodate two tigers. As long as Boss Lu Yang and Lu are still in Ningyuan and engaged in real estate, they will always be our strong competitors. Lu Ligan knew that he didn't even need to talk to Boss Mu about this matter. Chen Yong knew how to talk. Over the past year, he had taught him enough. All Lu Ligan had to wait for was to bid. Everything went as Lu Ligan expected. When Boss Mu asked Lu Ligan to have dinner, the other party's intention to acquire was already clear. The two parties directly began to negotiate the price, and finally reached an agreement. Boss Mu paid 3 million for the acquisition. The shell of Tianyi Real Estate Co., Ltd. The transfer procedure is very simple. Tianyi Real Estate Co., Limited still has 3 projects under construction, but the house has been sold by Lu Ligan in advance. Lu Ligan called the bosses of the 3 construction companies over, and Lu Ligan asked Wenwen to transfer all the property in advance. The money was paid to them, and they wrote a receipt and a letter of guarantee to Tianyi Real Estate Co., Ltd. Among the 3 projects, there are still 7 units that have not been sold out. Lu Ligan originally planned to give the discount to Boss Mu, but after thinking about it in the end, it would not be so troublesome, so he did it under the names of Wenwen and Qian. It was really not possible. Then it will be renovated and rented out. Then, Wenwen and Qian went to the Industrial and Commercial Bureau and transferred the shares to the person designated by Boss Mu. Boss Mu gave 3 million to Wenwen. Chen Yong is still the legal person and general manager of Tianyi Real Estate Co., Limited. It is Boss Mu's business whether and when to change. After getting 3 million, Lu Ligan was very happy. He said to Wenwen Qian, perfect, this is to maximize the company's residual value. Wenwen and Qian were still a little bit upset about voluntarily withdrawing from the real estate market so quickly. Wenwen said, why transfer? Isn't it good to keep the company? We don't lack the 3 million. Lu Ligan told her, keeping it is a burden. Even if you don't run the business, you still need to file taxes every month, annual industrial and commercial inspections, annual basic household inspections, etc. There are a lot of things to do. Besides, keeping it is also a disaster. Why is it a disaster? Qian asked. The company is not a person, it will not die naturally. You have to cancel it. If you cancel it, the tax will be liquidated. It is very troublesome. After the transfer, these troubles will be handed over to Boss Mu. If anything happens, I will talk to you too. It has nothing to do with it at all, do you understand? Ween Wen and Qian said oh and understood. What Lu Ligan didn't tell them was that no company would have any problems if it was really investigated. If they get rid of it early, they can get rid of the trouble completely. Of course, according to his risk control, even if there was any problem before, it would be the same. The legal person Chen Yong is responsible, but there is a difference between whether Chen Yong is their puppet or Boss Mu's puppet. Thank you for your monthly passes to Luan Dan Woody Hand. I love purple. Why can't I change my name, Dowdu and Wooden Man? Thanks for all the votes and reading. Have a good evening everyone. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1756. Lu Ligan brought an end to his and Ween Wen's and Kinkin's real estate careers in Ningyuan. Ween Wen and Qian have returned to their roles as supermarket owners. They go to the store every day when they are happy. When they are unhappy, they lie at home or wander around the town. However, the scope of their shopping generally does not exceed this street in town. After such a long period of operation in the supermarket, the top and bottom, the source of goods and the point of distribution below have become mature people. The actual business of purchasing goods and delivering goods to the subordinates in the supermarket does not require them to take care of much, as well as the warehouse supervisor. While they are in charge, they take a look, usually by visiting the store named after them, just like going home and chatting with the sales staff. Occasionally, they talk to customers in Yangzhou or Chenzhou on the phone. Just like this, they usually call Lu Ligan. It seems that Lu Ligan is the real boss here. Anyway, they still have to call them. Go ask Lu Ligan. Ween Wen wanted to buy a BMW X5 for Lu Ligan. Ween Wen and Lu Ligan said, "You are now a big shot in this town. It is not good to drive our broken Hyundai anymore." Lu Ligan laughed, "What's good about it is that my current radius of movement is no more than 200 meters around me, and I don't even need a car. But I bought it anyway." After buying it, this BMW X5 was parked at the entrance of Qian supermarket every day. It often traveled far away, that is, when someone got married in the town, it was borrowed through friends or friends of friends. Every afternoon, Lu Ligan walked out of Qian supermarket with a teacup in his hand. He would go to the warehouse to have a look and sit in Ween Wen supermarket. When he came back, he would go to Manager Lin's office. Boast. When Mr. Lin saw Lu Ligan coming in, he asked him, "Why did you buy your X5 if you don't drive it? Why don't you buy a bicycle like me? I use it to house the house. When it is parked in front of the supermarket, it is the house. Do you understand?" Lu Ligan said. Mr. Lin laughed loudly, "Then you might as well get the right stone lion and place it in front of the supermarket. I haven't heard that cars can also be used to control homes." Of course, Lu Ligan said, "If you go to a company to talk about something, the company's house is shabby and the office is the same as your old shabby office. There is no air conditioning. But when you walk to the door, what would you do if you saw their boss's Rolls-Royce parked there at a glance? Would you shrink your head and lose your voice when you see the boss?" Mr. Lin thought about it and scratched his head. "You are really good at it. It seems that this car can really control your house." "Of course. My X5 is parked in front of the supermarket. When a new supplier comes, the salesperson only needs to tell him that this is our boss's car, which will save a lot of nonsense," Lu Ligan said. Mr. Lin kept nodding, taking Lu Ligan's joke seriously. After a while, he said, "It's really humming weird." "What's weird?" Lu Ligan asked. "Why do things that seem unreasonable seem to make sense when you, Boss Lu, say them?" Mr. Lin said. Lu Ligan laughed heartily and said, "Principles are not spoken but acted out. Everything I do makes sense, but others cannot see through it. Once I say it, it becomes clear." "Just blow it," Mr. Lin said and shook his head. For Lu Ligan, he really didn't need a car. The reason why he didn't insist on refusing was because he understood that Ween Wen and Qian had always felt that they had taken advantage of Lu Ligan, and Lu Ligan would not accept any of their kindness. They would feel sorry, and Lu Ligan would be left to them. Lu Ligan's phone rang, and it was Ween Wen. Lu Ligan picked up the phone, and Ween Wen shouted on the phone, "Where did you die?" Lu Ligan said, "Mr. Lin and I are studying documents. Come back quickly, my cousin is here," Ween Wen said. "Okay, I'll come right away," Lu Ligan said. Ween Wen's cousin is the village director of Ween Wen's village. Every time this cousin comes to town, he will definitely come to Ween Wen's place. No matter what time he comes, be it 9 in the morning or 3 in the afternoon. No matter what you order, you will definitely have a drink with Lu Ligan when you come. Ween Wen goes to the supermarket below and gets a bottle of white wine, and a few bags of peanuts, dried tofu, braised chicken feet and beef jerky. The two of them can have sex. My cousin especially likes to drink with Lu Ligan. While the two of them are drinking, his cousin will talk to Lu Ligan about his work and things in the village. Lu Ligan will help him come up with ideas. His cousin and Ween Wen say, "Your uncle likes the man you are looking for." Every time after drinking with him and returning to the village, he feels that the work of the villagers is much easier. Ween Wen giggled, "Then did I find it for the whole village?" Her cousin also teased her, "Of course, you give me a picture of him, and I will go to the village to build a temple for him and worship him with the Teletubbies." Ween Wen and Lu Ligan laughed. The joke about Teletubbies was told by Lu Ligan to his cousin. He said that there was a person who dreamed about Teletubbies at night and told him a set of numbers. This person went to buy it the next day. After winning the lottery prize, the people in the village built a temple for Teletubbies and worshipped them every day, hoping that Teletubbies would bless them and win the prize. My cousin and Ween Wen said, "The town is going to sell the Hongling power plant." Ween Wen, "Why don't you go and buy it?" Ween Wen shouted, "Why do I want that broken reservoir?" Lu Ligan was curious and asked, "What about the Hongling power plant?" "It broke the reservoir again." Ween Wen and Lu Ligan said that the Hongling power plant is the Hongling reservoir. It is right behind their village. The stream next to their village flows out of the Hongling reservoir. There is a power plant on the dam of the reservoir. A generator can't produce much electricity. For many years, the money earned every year is not enough to pay workers. The town is trying to get rid of the burden. If you want to support those workers, no one will want it if you give it away for free, and you still want to sell it, Ween Wen snorted. "Is that reservoir a domestic water source protection area?" Lu Ligan asked. My cousin said no, the water from the reservoir is mainly used for irrigation. The irrigation water for their village and the two villages below comes from that reservoir, not for drinking. The village now uses tap water, and the water comes from the tap water in the town. The water supplied by the water plant comes from the Luokan reservoir on the edge of the town. Lu Ligan said, "Okay, let's go over and have a look tomorrow." "What do you want to do?" Ween Wen asked. "If you don't want to do anything, just look around," Lu Ligan said. "Anyway, it's just idle time, so let's just go on a trip." "Where are the tourists going?" "Are you crazy?" Ween Wen shouted. "I swam in that broken reservoir when I was still wearing crotchless pants, and now I still want to swim." Lu Ligan smiled and said, "Even if you are revisiting your old place and sleepwalking, can you accompany me on the trip?" "Okay," Ween Wen said. The cousin told them, "You are coming tomorrow. Go to the brigade headquarters first, and I will accompany you there." Lu Ligan and Ween Wen both agreed. The next day, Ween Wen drove the BMW X5 and took Qian and Lu Ligan to the Hongling reservoir. Before departure, Ween Wen and Qian moved things from the supermarket to the X5. Yes, everything from tobacco and alcohol to cakes and candies, as well as want gift packages. Lu Ligan looked at it curiously and asked, "What are you doing, going back to open a supermarket?" Ween Wen glared at him and cursed, it's not you who wants to go back. Do you think we are willing to go back? Do you think it will be easy for us to go back to the village? When we return to the village, the adults we see are not this table, this class, that class is the little grandpa and the little grandpa. The children we see call us aunt or aunt, can we not express our gratitude? Harmful evil spirit. Qian cursed at the side, and Lu Ligan laughed loudly and said, "How did I know that you are so popular in the village? I thought that going back to the village would be like a Japanese soldier entering the village to steal landmines, sneaking in and coming out quietly." "Go away," Qian scolded, and she and Wenwen both laughed. It was summer. When they set out in the morning, the sun was still red instead of white, and the wind was still a little cool. Wenwen and Qian scolded each other, but they were still happy when they really set foot on the road back home. Yes, the two people opened the car windows and sang songs like Ghosts and Howls, causing even the lukewarm chickens and ducks on the roadside to fly around in fear. In fact, I was scared away by Wenwen's rickety car. "Can you humming drive well?" Lu Ligan cursed. Wenwen scolded her back, "Don't worry about me. I don't see that I have only one car on this road. I can drive however I want." "Okay, but don't drive off the road, okay?" "Do you think I'm stupid?" Wenwen cursed. Lu Ligan was too lazy to pay attention to her and went to call Qian. "Qian, the scenery outside is extremely beautiful, or we can shock it." "Go away, you are not afraid of being bitten off by me." After Qian finished speaking, she and Wenwen laughed wildly. The car drove over the arch bridge entering the village. The temperature outside was getting warmer. Wenwen closed the car window and continued to drive along the creek. After driving another 3 or 4 kilometers, she saw a cement bridge and turned right. After crossing the bridge, Lu Ligan suddenly understood why the bridge was built here. Looking down, he could vaguely see a village. Looking up, it was Wenwen's village. This bridge was built in the middle of two villages. When Lu Ligan passed by it before, he still wondered why the bridge was built in this uninhabited place instead of being built directly on the edge of the arch bridge. Wenwen drove into the village and slowed down. The scene in the village was very different from the bustle during the Chinese New Year. It was deserted. Young people and middle-aged people all went out to work in the world. The only ones left behind were children and the elderly. Someone saw their car, came over, knocked on the car window and shouted to Wenwen and Qian. Wenwen opened the car window and shouted back to Qian, slowing down the car so that more people could hear it. The sound came out of the house, and Wenwen screamed Qian. By the time their car arrived in front of the old temple, there were already more than a dozen people following outside the car, chattering all the way and following the car. Such a big commotion outside had already alerted the cousin in the village committee. He walked out with a cigarette in his mouth and hands behind his back, followed by Wenwen and Kinkin's parents. "Thank you Ju 11 for the reward at around 3 o'clock in the middle of the night." "Thank you Hoo Hoo, reading Lao Blind, Lang 68, if you don't see a future, just remember the original intention, Wonk 119, I love purple, and book friend 201808030256350047 for your monthly votes. Thanks for all the votes and reading. I wish you all good health. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1757. The cousin took them to the Hongling power plant, which is also the Hongling Reservoir. He said that the power plant was still a habit inherited from the past few years. At that time, the Hongling power plant was a public unit, a county collective, a subordinate unit of the County Water Conservancy Bureau, and nearby villages. It is impossible for people here to enter the Hongling power plant. They recruit only residents. At that time, the workers at the Hongling power plant wore denim overalls and large toe suede leather shoes. They looked like working class people at first glance, and they looked very proud when walking in the village and town. But later on, the concept of household registration became blurred, and the Hongling power plant gradually declined. In addition, there was no economic benefit, and it had long since turned from the golden phoenix to a wild chicken. The power plant's affiliation has also moved from the County Water Conservancy Bureau to the town. It is impossible for the town to reject it. The Water Conservancy Bureau's organizational reform has implemented the separation of management and management. The ownership of these small water conservancy projects has been devolved to the town and township level. The decline of Hongling power plant has become a problem in the town, especially for such a small hydropower plant with only one turbine and an installed capacity of only 2,500 kilowatts. It is about the same size as a pump room, but there are still 16. The workers are all regular workers with various connections. They have no place to work, so they are forced here. Every month, the town pays them wages. This is what Ween Wen was referring to when she said it was given away for free and no one wanted it. They came out of the village, passed the cement bridge, and drove forward along the creek on the roadside. After driving for 5 or 6 kilometers, the creek reached the end, a three-way intersection. After crossing the bridge, the creek was no longer a creek. It is a small river, and the river is divided into two streams at the three forks, one flowing to Ween Wen and Kinkin's village, and the other flowing to Lu Ligan's unknown location. They drove forward for another 7 or 8 minutes, and the river reached its end. In front of them was a mountain kernel at the mouth of the Col, a dike more than 20 meters high was built. Behind the dike was the Hongling Reservoir, and at the foot of the dike, the river at the end of the building, there is a house. This house is the computer room of Hongling Power Station. The water of the creek flows out from under this house. The house is not big, about 200 square meters. Outside the house is a yard of 300 to 400 square meters. The yard is covered with grass, and half of the yard wall has collapsed, so the iron gate is closed or not. Just the same, it stays open all year round. Ween Wen drove the car into the yard and parked in front of the factory. The door of the factory was closed and locked. On the door was written in white paint, "The computer room is an important place and entry is strictly prohibited." My cousin cursed, "The machine is broken again." My cousin told Lu Ligan that the Hongling power plant was built in 1970. At that time, the lighting in our homes and the water pumps and rice threshers in the fields all relied on electricity from here. It is a pity that the equipment of this power station is so, over the years, it has become old and worn out. Instead, it stops for more than half of the year. Anyway, everyone no longer relies on this place for electricity. The four people got out of the car, walked out of the yard, and walked toward the foothills on the left side of the embankment. There was a staircase more than 20 meters high that led directly to the top of the dam. Among the four people, only my cousin climbed the steps as if they were walking on flat ground. The other 3 people were all out of breath while climbing. Lu Ligan said, "It shouldn't be. It's more than 20 meters, which is only 6 or 7 stories high. How can I be so tired after climbing a 6 or 7-story building?" Ween Wen looked at him with a bad smile on her face. Lu Ligan asked, "Why are you laughing?" Ween Wen shook her head and said nothing. She looked up at her cousin in front of her and continued to climb. Her cousin had already thrown them away by a long distance. Lu Ligan said, "I can't do it anymore, I can't do it anymore, I want to sit down and take a rest." Qian, who was following behind, immediately punched her in the butt. Qian scolded, "You crawl so damn hard at night, why can't you crawl during the day?" Ween Wen, who was walking in front, also heard it and laughed loudly. She said, "Let him sit and see if he can sit down." Holy shit, Lu Ligan reached out and touched the steps. The steps were hot, so he could only insist on continuing to climb up. From the moment we got off the bus, we were exposed to the sun all the way, which exposed the oil on the three people's faces. Even though Ween Wen and Chien were wearing straw hats, they were of no use. Climbing to the top of the dam, Lu Ligan couldn't help but be overjoyed when he saw a green shade in front of him. He felt cooler. There were two houses in the green shade on the top of the dam. When he walked over, he saw that the outside of the house was still there. A yard is quite large, including the large flat land connecting the top of the dam and the adjacent hillside, totaling 7 or 8 acres. The house is two two-story buildings, one is the office building of Hongling Power Plant, and the other is a dormitory building. It can be imagined that this power station, which seems inconspicuous now, was indeed a big local project at the time. For a long time, the slogans "Grasp the Revolution," "Promote Production," and "Prepare for War and Famine for the People" were still written on the walls of the courtyard outside, but the colors have long faded. They walked into the yard and walked towards the office building. The entire yard was covered by lush trees, providing a blanket of shade. As they walked into the yard, they heard the sound of mahjong being played. In the shade of the tree in front of the office building, there was a mahjong table. There were 4 people sitting at the table, and 3 or 4 people standing at the edge watching. Seeing them coming in, some raised their hands to their cousin to say hello. Others looked at Ween Wen Chien, then at Lu Ligan, and shouted, "Ween Wen, did you bring your man to our reservoir for a mandarin duck bath?" Everyone burst into laughter, and Ween Wen cursed, "Believe it or not, I will tear your mouth apart." Someone said, "Don't be afraid of tearing your lips, as long as you kiss them before tearing them." Everyone burst into laughter again. "Go away," Ween Wen looked at the person who said this and cursed, "If you want to kiss your wife, go ahead and kiss her with her big buck teeth. Don't accidentally bite your tongue off by her." Everyone was enjoying themselves, and my cousin asked, "Where is the brain case?" Someone pointed to the office building behind him and said, "Studying superior documents." My cousin led the 3 people inside and walked to an open office door, probably for ventilation. There was a recliner inside the door. A man was lying on the recliner and fell asleep, with a mask covering his face. He was fanning a cattail leaf, wearing a pair of large trousers, and a vest on top. The hem of the vest was rolled up, revealing a large section of his white belly. In the office, the ceiling fan on the ceiling kept spinning, lifting and lifting the newspapers on the desk, making a clattering sound. The cousin stretched out his hand and patted the belly. The man shivered and angrily pulled off the fan on his face, revealing a brain. The brain was about to get angry. When he saw it was his cousin, he smiled. "Got up." "Get up," my cousin said. When the man saw Ween Wen and Chien, he nodded to them and nodded to Lu Lipol. He sat up and stretched out a hand. His cousin took his hand and pulled him away. He stood up, kicked the deck chair made of steel pipes and canvas, and kicked it inward, creating a way in. The cousin told Lu Ligan that the big brain was the director of the power plant. He pointed at Lu Ligan, but before he could speak, the big brain shouted, I know. My cousin asked Ween Wen Chien and Lu Lipol to sit on the wooden sofa, while shouting, pour water, climb on top of you, I'm dying of thirst." Big Brain smiled and said, "I didn't invite you to come. You are so active and want to come to inspect the work. Who is to blame?" He said this, but still took out a disposable plastic cup. There was no drinking water dispenser in the office. He picked up the drinking water bucket placed at the foot of the wall, held it, and poured the water into an enamel basin first, and then put the basin into the water in it was poured into cups one by one. After returning with the water, he asked his cousin seriously, "What's the matter?" "Bring my niece and the others here to see if the town wants to sell your place," said my cousin. Big Brain looked at Ween Wen and asked, "If you want to buy it, you can buy it? I am willing to work for you." Ween said, "I don't want it. Seeing your pig head makes my head hurt." Big Brain smiled, and his cousin said, "Boss Lou wants to come and take a look." "Same, they are not from the same family," Big Brain said. "It seems that this family is indeed well known in and outside the town." "Why did you guys stop working again?" asked my cousin. "One of the shafts is broken. Parts are not available for the old machine. We have to find other factories to process it. We are waiting for the parts," Braincase said. Lou Ligon saw a map posted on the wall that had turned yellow and was made out of blue blueprints from the early years. On it were the words "Schematic Map of Hongling Power Plant" in blue italics. Lou Ligon stood up and walked to the map to take a look. He saw that the area of the Hongling Power Plant included not only the Hongling Reservoir inside, but also the long strip under the dam including the machine room. Some of the mountains surrounding the reservoir are included. Lou Ligon asked. "The mountains around the reservoir also belong to your power plant." Big Brain is right, the mountains surrounding the reservoir and facing the reservoir are all ours. It seems that when the reservoir was built, it was assigned to your power plant. It turns out that part of it belongs to our brigade, my cousin said, and his brain was right. "Do you have a warrant for this power plant?" Lou Ligon asked. "The ones with land certificates and real estate certificates are those on both sides of our yard, the embankment and the mountains. I remember only the forest rights certificate." "Can you show it to me?" Lou Ligon said. "Of course you can take a look. Let me think about where these things are." The Big Braincase said, walked to the desk, opened the side drawers one by one, but couldn't find any. He sat there and thought for a while, and then patted his head, as if he remembered. He removed the drawer from the drawer. Inside, he took out a bunch of keys and walked to the two locked wooden cabinets against the wall. "I opened a cabinet but still couldn't find it. I opened another cabinet and smiled happily. I found it. I found it." He took out a cardboard box containing leather shoes from the cabinet, put it on the coffee table, and opened the lid. Lou Ligon saw a cardboard box inside, which contained various documents. Lou Ligon opened it and took a look. It not only contained the land certificate for the yard on the top of the dam, but the land area was indeed, as he estimated, more than 7 acres. It also contained the property certificates for the 2 houses and the factory below, as well as the property certificates for the mountains and forests surrounding the reservoir. The forest rights certificates and several forest rights certificates cover a total area of more than 6,000 acres. Lou Ligon also saw a copy of the Ningyuan County Small Water Conservancy Project property rights certificate whose content overlapped with the previous certificates. It could be said to cover all the previous contents. The content of this certificate was very comprehensive, including mountains, forests, dams, reservoirs. The factories and office facilities are all listed on it, and its scope is consistent with the schematic diagram on the wall. Thank you Quadratic VC for the reward. Thank you for your monthly votes from Xiao Shen Nian Fang 48, Ju 11, Daodu, and Book Friends 201907212018094888. Thanks for all the votes and reading. Have a good evening everyone. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1758. Cousin Lou Ligon and Ween Wenqian were chatting with Guan Hai in local dialect. Lou Ligon stood up and walked out. He walked to the door of the yard and looked towards the reservoir. The entire reservoir is visually larger than half a football field, but Lou Ligon had read the Ningyuan County Small Water Conservancy Project property rights certificate before and knew that the actual area of the reservoir is actually larger than a football field because it is surrounded by mountains. The reason is that it looks smaller. In summer now, reservoirs are different from rivers. Because the temperature is too high and there has been no rain in the mountains for a long time, the amount of water entering the reservoir is insufficient. However, more water evaporates due to the high temperature. Due to double flooding in the downstream, the demand for and use of irrigation is large. Now should be the dry season of the reservoir, or at least the normal water period. But Lu Ligan saw that the water level in the Hongling Reservoir had not dropped much. The reservoir was close to the mountains surrounding the water surface. The places where water could not be flooded all year round were green. The places that were easily flooded by water were full of vegetation. It cannot grow. When the water level is low, a section of brown rock will be exposed, like a skirt for the reservoir. Lu Ligan saw that the brown-yellow circle was only about half a meter, indicating that even in such a hot summer, the water level was only about half a meter shallower than during the wet season. Lu Ligan watched for a while and then walked back. The mahjong players were still playing and watching. They were completely immersed in their own mahjong and turned a blind eye to Lu Ligan's entry and exit. Lu Ligan, when I approached the office of the brain case, I heard that they were talking very lively. Even though Lu Ligan had been here for more than 2 years, he still couldn't fully understand the local dialect. Lu Ligan didn't want to go in and join their chat, so he walked along the corridor at the door of the office towards the other end of the office building. When he reached the top room, Lu Ligan unexpectedly discovered that there was another person sitting in the office. Sitting at the table reading a book. Although the weather is hot and the sound of playing mahjong outside is very noisy, he sits here as if in trance and looks very cool. Lu Ligan stood at the door and coughed. The other person raised his head and looked at him. Lu Ligan saw that the man was about 40 years old. He wore a pair of deep black-rimmed glasses on the bridge of his nose. One leg of the glasses was also covered with rubber glue. It has been a long time since the rubber tape was wrapped around it, and the tape has turned black. Lu Ligan took out a cigarette from his pocket and asked him, "Do you smoke?" The other party quickly waved his hand and said not to smoke. Lu Lepol pointed to the table opposite him and asked, "Can I sit down?" The other party said yes, yes. Lu Ligan sat down at the desk opposite him. "You have a nice place." Lu Ligan was speechless. "What's good?" The other party pushed the glasses frame with his hand, looked at Lu Ligan, and asked seriously. Lu Ligan originally just said it casually, but he didn't expect the other party to become serious. Lu Ligan had to say, "The scenery is good, and the air is also good." The other party nodded, "This is true." As the other party spoke, he casually took a piece of paper from the table, put it in the book as a bookmark, and then closed the book. Lu Ligan saw that what he was reading was an electrical engineering textbook. The other party noticed that Lu Ligan was staring at his book, and he said mockingly, "I almost returned the textbooks in the university to the teacher. I have nothing to do these days. Find them out and take a look." Lu Ligan was slightly surprised. He didn't expect that there would be a college graduate in such a small hydropower station that was about to close down. Lu Ligan couldn't help but ask, "What do you do here?" "Technician." "Technician?" Lu Ligan was confused. "Does this damn place need a full-time technician?" The other party seemed to know what Lu Ligan was thinking. He probably didn't even have anyone to chat with at ordinary times. Today, when he met someone who was willing to listen to his ramblings, he said honestly, "When I graduated from college, I was assigned to work as a technician in the County Water Conservancy Bureau. Anyone with skills and background would be promoted, either promoted or promoted. I, who have no skills and no background, are not treated well. He is getting lower and lower, and he is always a small technician. When the management and office were separated, he was transferred here. In fact, hey, it is to free up the staff for others." The other party talked about his own affairs in a calm tone, without too much anger, but with too much helplessness. "But, like you said, it's nice here, at least it's quiet," the other person added. Lu Ligan smiled and said, "My surname is Lu, and my name is Lu Yang, from Pacific Ocean." "What is your surname?" "My surname is Wu, Wurongui," the other party said. "I heard that the town is going to sell this power station. Are you here to buy the power station?" Lu Ligan said, "No, let's take a look." By the way, is this place worth buying? I don't know if it's worth it, but as it is now, if the business is well run, at least it shouldn't be a loss, and it won't reach the stage of selling the power station, Wurongui said. Oh, why? Lu Ligan asked curiously. Wurongui looked at the open door behind Lu Ligan. He waved to Lu Ligan and said, "Come here." Lu Ligan stood up, walked over, and stood beside Wurongui. Wurongui waved his hand and said, "Don't stand here, blocking the light." Lu Ligan moved and stood behind him. Wurongui took a piece of paper from the table, took out a pen from the pen holder, and wrote a series of numbers on the paper. 2500 x 0.65 x 10 x 0.26 equal 4225. Lu Ligan looked at the string of numbers, puzzled. After Wurongui finished writing, he pushed up his glasses frame, then stared at Lu Ligan and asked, "Do you understand?" "I don't understand, what do you mean?" Lu Ligan said. "Hey, this is a simple math question." Wurongui was a little dissatisfied that Lu Ligan couldn't even understand such a simple question. Lu Ligan smiled and said, "I know this is a simple math problem, but I don't know the meaning behind each number." Okay, Wurongui sighed and began to explain to Lu Ligan. The installed capacity of this power station is 2,500 kilowatts. In theory, it can generate 2,500 kilowatt hours of electricity per hour. Of course, there will be actual losses. The losses are calculated as 35%, so the figure is 0.65. Do you understand? Understood, Lu Ligan said, and Wurongui continued. That is to say, every hour, it can actually generate 1,625 kilowatt hours of electricity. The amount of water here is relatively abundant. During the average dry, normal and wet periods, it is possible to work 10 hours a day. That's it? 10. The on-grid electricity price here in Ningyuan is 26 cents. Finally, this number comes out. This is the daily income that the power station should have. Wurongui pointed at the last number 4,225 with his pen and told Lu Ligan. Lu Ligan was surprised and asked. It's more than 4,000 per day, which means it's more than 120,000 per month. So, you shouldn't be unable to pay wages here, right? Wurongui twitched the corner of his mouth, so I said, it won't go to the point of selling the power station. Then why do you say that you can't even pay wages? Lu Ligan asked, puzzled. Wurongui tapped the 10 in the string of numbers with his pen. This cannot be guaranteed. Even the average power generation of 10 hours a day cannot be guaranteed. Why? Old equipment is one of the reasons, coupled with poor maintenance and brutal operation. People here have to go on duty when the machine rings. If the machine doesn't ring, if they see it, they can play mahjong on it every day. If the machine is broken, everyone is happy, so why doesn't the machine break down often? Wurongui asked. Holy shit, Lu Ligan couldn't help but cursed. Wurongui grabbed the piece of paper into a ball, threw a parabola, and threw the ball into the waste basket behind the door. Have you ever told Guanbei about this? Lu Ligan asked. If what I say is effective and if someone listens to my words, I won't be demoted from the Water Conservancy Bureau to come here. Wurongui smiled bitterly. I am here now, and I regard myself as a piece of wood. Lu Ligan understood, shook his head, and said, it's a pity. Do you want to buy here? Wurongui asked again. Lu Ligan told him honestly, it turned out that I just wanted to take a look. After hearing what you said, I am interested in buying it. Really? Wurongui asked. Lu Ligan nodded, really. Wurongui straightened up, put his hands on the table, paused for a while, raised the front of his palms, and patted the table lightly. Okay, then I can give you another sentence. Do you want to listen? Lu Ligan said yes. I advise you to buy it, Wurongui said. After buying it, if you can continue to invest, this place can make money. How to make money? Lu Ligan asked. The equipment here is all from the 1970s. The technology of today's hydroelectric generators has been greatly improved. I have calculated the water volume and height difference here. In this place, it is completely possible to modify a generator with an installed capacity of 15,000. A 1000 kilowatt generator is 15,000 kilowatts. According to the previous formula, you can do the math yourself. Lu Ligan made a rough calculation and was startled. He looked at Wurongui and asked doubtfully, so much difference? 15,000 kilowatts. There is a company in Shaoyang that makes hydroelectric generators. You can go there and ask, or ask their technicians to come and have a look. I think they will give you the same answer as me. This is the result of scientific calculations, not magic. You don't have to look for them. I believe what you said, Lu Ligan said. By the way, if we modify the generator like you said, how much investment will be needed? The total investment should be within 1.5 million for the installation of new generating units, renovation of the substation, and partial adjustments to the dam body, said Wurongui and Lu Ligan. RMB, Lu Ligan asked. Of course it's RMB. Our domestically produced small capacity hydroelectric generators are very good, Wurongui said. Why are you here? I was looking for you everywhere. Gan Wenwen stood at the door and shouted impatiently. Lu Ligan stood up, walked to Wurongui, picked up the pen and paper on the table, and wrote down his mobile phone number. He said to Wurongui, when you arrive in town, just call me, or go to Wenwen supermarket or Qianqian supermarket to find me. I'll buy you a drink and we'll have a good chat. Wurongui looked at the phone number in front of him, without nodding or shaking his head, and there was no expression on his face. Lu Lizan patted him on the shoulder and walked out. After walking out for a while, Wenwen asked, why did you chat with such a fool for so long? Lu Ligan asked, who said he is a fool? Who in this town doesn't know that Wu Fool from the Hongling power station was stupid at studying and had no place to work, so he came here, Wenwen said. Thank you Huang Pipi, Quadratic VC, Ju 11, for the reward of 2 fishes at 3 o'clock in the middle of the night. Thank you for your monthly votes from Huang Pipi, Xiao Shen Nian Fang 48, Nan Ke Yiman 79, Rain Man, WXD 121, Yuengzi, Look at the Landscape, Book Friends 2017062423372926 3 o'clock in the middle of the night, Wu Yue Hao, Book Friends 201809062232049334. Thanks for all the votes and reading. I wish you all good health. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1759. They returned to Wenwen's house for lunch. Wenwen's parents had already prepared a table of dishes and were waiting for them. At the dinner table, Lu Ligan asked his cousin how much the town was prepared to sell the Hongling power plant for. What are you doing? You don't want to buy that shabby place, do you? Qian shouted. Lu Ligan nodded and said, yes, I want to buy it. The cousin said, the negotiated price is 800,000, but there is a condition, that is, the 16 people must also be taken away together, and there must be an agreement with the County Water Conservancy Bureau, which means that after you buy it, you must also ensure that there is no need to worry about the irrigation water downstream. The Hongling Reservoir has enough water since it was built and has never been without water. Go ahead and buy it. Those 16 people are your 16 grandfathers. It's not like you haven't seen them this morning, Wenwen said. Are you so in need of grandfathers? My cousin nodded. What Wenwen said still makes sense. Lu Ligan remained calm, thinking to himself, even if I want Wurongui alone, it would be a good deal to join the 15 people. Of course, he couldn't do the calculations that Wurongui had made to him. He wanted to go to the Hongling Reservoir and wanted to buy it. He wasn't going there for the power plant. He was just going there. Wurongui calculated the accounts for him, and he felt more confident. In this way, after taking over the place, as long as it is managed properly, it can be guaranteed not to lose money immediately. As for Wurongui telling him about the renovation of the hydraulic generator, it was an unexpected surprise and he could make a lot of money. According to Lu Ligan's original plan, the place wanted to lose money for 2 years first, then break even, and then achieve long-term profitability. Lu Ligan said, "Don't be afraid of people. People are needed there. If we really do it, 16 people may not be enough. We still need to recruit people." Do we still need to recruit people? 16 people in a power plant are not enough. What do you want to do? My cousin asked Lu Ligan in surprise. Lu Ligan proposed to them what he originally wanted to do. He said, "I want to make a farmhouse there, that is, to do tourism. Believe me, this kind of resource suitable for tourism is a scarce resource that cannot be copied. Now, the town may build another project like Hongling Reservoir." "This is impossible," my cousin said, "not to mention the town, it is impossible for the entire county. Several large reservoirs in the county were built after learning from Dazai. It is impossible to build them again now." Lu Ligan nodded and said, "Yes, it can't be rebuilt. Now everyone looks at Hongling power plant as if it is worthless. In fact, they forget that it is a special product of a special period. Such a large reservoir and forest can be delimited with just one stroke. Come in, such a high embankment was probably made possible by everyone's voluntary labor, right?" "Yes," my cousin nodded. "At that time, people from several brigades in the town, old and young, went there, and it took more than 2 years to build it. It's because of this that at that time, whether it was land, mountains, or forests, or so much labor input, all without spending money, everyone thought it was worthless. In fact, its value was determined by whether it was spent or not there. This account can also have another algorithm, that is, if you do the same project now, how much will it cost? If you go to acquire land and such a large area of mountains and forests now, you probably won't be able to acquire it even if you want to. Even if you have acquired it, you add in the construction costs of such high dam projects, resettlement costs, compensation costs for young crops and forests, etc. I estimate it is at least hundreds of millions of yuan. Don't settle historical accounts. Putting aside historical reasons, hundreds of millions of yuan is its true value, and it will become more and more expensive in the future. You say, if something worth hundreds of millions of yuan now costs 800,000 yuan, will you still think about it? Do you think it's expensive?" Hey, my cousin said in surprise, "You are really a strange person. When you say this, it really makes sense. It seems that this is really the way to settle the account." "It is," Lu Ligan said with a smile. "Cousin, you said earlier that it is impossible to build such a project now, but in fact, what you are thinking is that it is too expensive and we can no longer afford it." "Haha, it's true. One is that it's expensive, and the other is that if we start such a big project now, there will be so many troubles involved. It gives me a headache just thinking about it. I just haven't thought about it. I can still calculate the consequences." "Go back to the front," my cousin smiled. When Lu Ligan said this, Wenwen and Qian also became excited. Wenwen patted Lu Ligan's hand and said, "Come on, tell me about your farmhouse. Since it is not a water source protection area, you can raise fish, shrimp, and crabs in the reservoir, and engage in aquaculture. This aquaculture industry is different from other aquaculture. It is much more cost-effective for you to throw away the fry and crab fry than to deposit the money in the bank. There is a reservoir, not a river. As long as you don't catch them, they will always be in it. They can't escape. Year after year, month after month, all they grow is money. Isn't it faster than bank interest? They will also reproduce the next generation, that is, they are all in the reservoir, and they are all yours. The fish in Candeo Lake can grow to more than 10 or 20 pounds, and one fish costs several hundred yuan. We are the same here and can do it. When Lu Ligan was talking, his cousin kept nodding and shaking his head. He sighed and said, "No wonder you are able to make money, Boss Lu. Your method of settling accounts is just different from others." Lu Ligan smiled and said, "I talked about aquaculture, but I didn't really engage in aquaculture. Although there is a development company in Candeo Lake, they only release fry and catch fish but don't raise them." "Why not raise them?" "Candeo Lake, if the lake is big enough, the fish will grow on their own, and every time they are caught, they are fish that have been growing for several years. Instead of being like many farmers who release them this year and catch them this year, so you have to feed them every day. We don't feed them, we don't raise them so intensively, and we let them grow naturally. In this way, we can even save money on feeds. Once you get down, you can say that you don't have to worry about them at all, and you won't be like them, who will empty out the entire reservoir and sell it out as soon as you catch them." Another disadvantage of intensive farming is that it will destroy the water body. Although the Hongling Reservoir is not a water source protection area, it is our own reservoir. I will not be so stupid as to make my own reservoir dirty. Wen Wen and Qian were confused. Wen Wen asked Lu Ligan, "What on earth are you talking about? If you don't feed, catch, or sell anything, then what kind of breeding industry are you engaged in?" "That's right," Qian said. "Didn't I say let them grow naturally? Do you know that fish that grow naturally are more delicious and more expensive than fish that are fed feed every day?" Lu Ligan said, "I don't, hey, just make them more valuable." Lu Ligan laughed as he spoke, "Of course, it's not that we don't catch or sell, but we catch and sell every day, and sell one fish for the price of 3 fish. Go away, you think fish buyers are all fools, and you still get the price of selling 3 fish for 1, Qian scolded. "Of course, we can open a fish restaurant next to the reservoir. When the fish is on the table, can one fish still be sold for $3, Lu Ligan asked. Qian was stunned for a moment, then continued to say, "Go away, open a fish restaurant there, who would go there? Go to that corner just to have a meal. It does happen. It's normal for people to drive for an hour just to have a meal. But it doesn't happen now. When everyone has a car, it will still happen," Lu Ligan smiled. "Then you wait until everyone has a car before driving," Qian snorted. "No need to wait," Lu Ligan said. "What if that place has food, entertainment, and accommodation, and becomes a tourist attraction? Will there be a flow of tourists? For example, in this season, if there is a swimming pool there are motor boats, bumper boats, and manned balloons. There is a greenway on the mountain nearby, which allows people to climb and jog. You can also rock climb by the water. Even if you fall, you will still fall into the water. That place also has accommodation. You can go there for a tryst, a date, or a concubine. You can also hold small meetings and training classes. Do you think anyone else will go?" Wen Wen and Qian opened their eyes wide, and Wen Wen asked, "Is this your farmhouse?" "Yes, can we do it?" Lu Ligan asked. Wen Wen and Qian nodded repeatedly, and their cousin stood up and said, "Let's go to the town now. Wen Wen, you arrange a place for the evening. I'll invite several leaders in the town to settle the matter today." Wen Wen said yes, and everyone stood up. Wen Wen's mother looked at the pile of things piled in front of the hall and asked Wen Wen, "What should I do with these things?" "Oh, you divided it up for us, we don't have time, we have to leave," Wen Wen said. Dinner was scheduled at the restaurant next door to Qian supermarket, and several bosses from the town came. Not only were they old acquaintances with Wen Wen Qian, but they were also old acquaintances with Lu Ligan. Hearing that Wen Wen and Qian wanted to buy the Hongling power plant, the mayor looked not at Wen Wen and Qian, but at Lu Ligan and said, "Boss Lu, you have made contributions to our town. If this power station is handed over to other unscrupulous people, we are not at ease. If you buy it, we will definitely support you and give you the most favorable terms. Lou Ligon knew that he was talking about erecting the 18-story building, bringing glory to their faces, helping to set up the market, and increasing revenue for the town government. The most important thing was the report was very good. One building completed 2 of the 10 major events in the town that year. The mayor looked at the secretary, who nodded, and the matter was settled. Hongling Power Plant was sold to Wenwen and Qianqian for 750,000 yuan. Lou Ligon and Wenwen Qianqian toasted to several people in turn. The mayor looked at Wenwen and Qianqian and said, "You used to be the female bosses in our town. From now on, you will be the female entrepreneurs in our town. Work hard. With Boss Lou helping you, you will definitely have a future." Wenwen and Qianqian smiled brightly and quickly said thank you. At night, while lying on the bed, Lou Ligon told them what Wu Rongui told them about the idea of transforming the hydroelectric generator, and then settled the accounts for them. Wenwen and Qianqian were shocked. Wenwen shouted, "So, from photovoltaic power generation alone, how many millions of dollars can we make in a year?" Lou Ligon was right. "Let me go, this fool Wu." It turns out that he is not fool Wu, but god of wealth Wu, Wenwen continued to shout. Lou Ligon couldn't help laughing. He said, "Yes, have you ever seen the image of the god of wealth? The god of wealth looks silly." Wenwen and Qianqian burst into laughter. Lou Ligon said to them, "Don't worry about this matter. Take your time. The reservoir is already ours. When to transform it is our own business. The first step is to build the farmhouse. After the farmhouse is completed, we quietly renovated the power plant." "Why," Qianqian said, "wouldn't it be easier to make money if you reform earlier?" "Money, money, money, you are obsessed with money." Lou Lepole tapped her on the head. "Making money also requires rhythm and steps. Do you understand? Don't know? Think about it. You bought a power plant for RMB 750,000 this year and will make millions next year. What will the people in the town think? These few people in the town have no idea. What will the people in the town think? Will everyone say that there is something fishy in this transaction, and say that these people in the town have caused the loss of state-owned assets? How much pressure will they feel? Do you think it's a good thing that everyone is jealous of you? Have you forgotten why I asked Chen Yong to be the CEO of the real estate company instead of you, otherwise you would have such peace? Just the relatives and friends who come to you to borrow money can probably do it," is the line from the street to the end of the street. When Lou Ligon was talking, Wenwen kept nodding, and Qianqian also said, "Oh, understanding. Let's build a farmhouse first. People see that we are investing every day. We have to spend money here and spend money there. By the way, you are also crying about poverty outside, saying that in order to build this farmhouse, you owe a lot of debt." "I understand." "No." Both of them nodded, and Lou Ligon continued. "This farmhouse is different from the power plant renovation. The power plant renovation cost money, but it was all spent in the dark. The farmhouse cost a small amount of money, but every penny was spent in the open, where others can see it. Here a house there, a road here, a dock there, everyone can see that you are spending money. Then, at the beginning, you thought it was impossible for the business to be booming all of a sudden. What would happen to others at this time? It's not that they are jealous of you, but they are waiting to see your jokes. Everyone thinks that you are similar to Wu Fool, who will buy Hongling Power Plant. At this time, we can start to quietly transform the power plant. Anyway, everyone is used to it being a construction site. No one will care about what we do. When the power station is renovated and the farmhouse business gets better, at this time, who knows what kind of money you are making?" Wenwen and Qianqian both laughed. "Work hard. This is the project you can rely on in the long term. Real estate is gone once a project is sold. This project is easy to sell, and I don't know what the next project will be like. It's very stressful. This is a long-term source of income. As long as there is still need for electricity, the hydropower plant will be a huge profit, do you understand? Ween Wen and Qian nodded. As Lu Ligan spoke, he suddenly felt sad. He felt that these words seemed like parting words. However, it was really possible. Who knew when he would be there again? We have to flee, we have to leave here. With such a project, even if we are not here, these two diehards can still maintain harvests despite drought and floods. Lu Ligan thought this, his hands tightened, and both of them moved towards him. Thank you for the reward at 3 o'clock in the middle of the night. Thank you for your monthly votes from readers 1184447179611103232, CYTYP, Tamagotchi, Tian Weiwei, Hu, Star Travel, Lao Dibao Ei, Tianying 1978, and Book Friends 201805121221105118. Thanks for all the votes and reading. Have a good evening everyone. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1760. At 9 o'clock the next morning, the two parties signed an agreement. Ween Wen transferred 750,000 to the town government, and the Hongling power plant officially became Ween Wen and Kinkin's. They only need to go to the Industrial and Commercial Bureau and change the shareholders of Hongling power plant from the town government to Ween Wen and Qian. Once the transfer procedures for both parties are completed, there is no need to reapply for other certificates, because those certificates are all if it is under the name of Hongling power plant. You only need to change the registered legal person to Ween Wen. After signing the agreement, Ween Wen Qian and the town clerk went to the county to change the license. Lu Ligan drove alone and was going to Hongling power plant to hold a meeting for all the workers. When my cousin found out, he called Lu Ligan and said, "Pick me up when he passes by the village. Those people at the power plant are not easy to deal with. I will go with you, and they will give me some face." Lu Ligan agreed, and he put 2 boxes of Wu Yanjai and 2 boxes of Zonghua cigarettes in the trunk of his BMW X5. Then he went to the farmer's market and bought a lot of braised vegetables, which almost sold out other stalls. When I came back, I took 2 wash basins and went to the restaurant next door to buy smoked fish and blood duck. The boss looked at Lu Ligan and couldn't laugh or cry. He said, "Why didn't you tell me earlier? You have ruined all my blood duck and smoked fish. Sold out, what should I serve for lunch?" Lu Ligan scolded, "I don't care about you. It's you who runs the restaurant, not me. You won't think of another way." Seeing that they had just cooked a pot of salted peanuts, Lu Ligan bought all the peanuts and drove away. When he drove to the arch bridge at the head of Ween Wen's village, he saw his cousin already wearing a straw hat and standing in the shade of the roadside trees waiting for him. Lu Ligan quickly stopped the car and his cousin climbed up. When they drove to Hongling power plant, the 16 people from Hongling power plant had received a call from their cousin and were waiting for them below the embankment. The workshop still stopped working. Lu Ligan greeted everyone and said, "Come on, it's okay anyway. We don't want to play mahjong today. Let's have dinner together, so we can get to know each other." After hearing what Lu Ligan said, everyone was so happy to see such good wine, such good cigarettes, and such good food in the car. They moved their things up together, under the shade of the trees in the yard. I got off the table, set up the table, and started drinking regardless of whether it was still early for lunch. Lu Ligan told everyone that you can drink and smoke as much as you want, and if you can't finish drinking or smoking in the end, you can take them away. Big Brain shouted, "Boss Lu, if you say this, everyone will be reluctant to drink or smoke." Everyone laughed. Lu Ligan said, "Don't be so petty. Our good days have just begun. There will be many times like this in the future." Everyone started drinking, and Lu Ligan chatted with everyone about Yongcheng and the Xiananjiang hydropower station. Of course everyone here knew about the Xiananjiang hydropower station. Some people even visited the Xiananjiang hydropower station when they first entered the factory. Lu Ligan said, "What I want to tell you is not the Xiananjiang hydropower station, but the workers of the hydropower station. That power plant is the best unit in Yongcheng. The workers in the power plant have high income and good treatment. It can be said that Yongcheng is the first-class citizen among tens of thousands of people in the city." Big Brain said, "We will definitely not be able to live such a life." "Who said you can't do it? Don't look down on yourself. We are all plumbers. The life they can live, we can live too." As Lu Ligan said, everyone looked at him with disdain and disbelief, thinking that this guy was trying to fool us with good smoke, good wine, and good food. The cousin waved his hand and called, "Come on, Boss Lu, you are here today. Even if the new official takes office, you can say a few words to everyone." Braincase took the lead in applauding, and others followed sparsely in applauding. Lu Ligan looked at everyone and said, "Okay, let me tell you something. I don't like to talk so seriously, but today is a formal meeting, so I will be serious for a few minutes. Let me say 2 sentences. The first one is, everyone will work hard from now on. I guarantee that not only will your wages be paid on time, but also that starting from this month, your wages will be increased by any amount. I had dinner with the mayor last night. I asked about his salary, and I guarantee that your lowest salary will exceed the salary of the town mayor." When everyone heard this, they clapped quickly. No matter if he was bragging or not, the words were exciting enough anyway, so let's wait until the fun is over. If you can't cash it out then, you'll have to settle the score with him. Lu Ligan stretched out his hands and waved them downwards, as if he were trying to hold down a balloon. Lu Ligan continued, "Don't clap now. Wait until I finish my second sentence. Then you can clap again. Originally, you were working for the town. Now, you are working for private bosses. I don't care whether you have any thoughts in your heart. I will tell you that there are changes, but there is no change. What has not changed is that you are originally workers. The next step is still workers, but the boss above has changed, the boss has changed. Is there any difference? Of course there is a difference. What is the difference? Let me tell you, it is easier to work for a private boss. There are not so many twists and turns. You don't need to flatter me at ordinary times. Just remember 2 words. Those 2 the word? That means polite. If you are polite to me, I will be polite to you. If you are rude to me, it will be difficult for me to be polite to you. Okay, I've said all I have to say." After Lu Ligan finished speaking, he sat down. Everyone was stunned for a moment, and then they all clapped behind Big Head. Big Head was thinking, you, as long as your salary is polite, you are my biological father, and I will treat you well. Of course you're welcome. My cousin said, the salary is higher than the mayor of the town. Damn it, it makes me want to work here. This meal lasted until about 3 o'clock. Everyone was so happy that the banquet was dismissed. Some people wanted to continue mahjong, but seeing Lu Lapole there, they felt that no matter what, he was always the boss. In broad daylight, it was not good to play mahjong in front of the boss, so I didn't play, but went back to the dormitory and slept. When Lu Ligan saw Wu Rongui leaving the banquet very early, he also stood up and said to his cousin, "I'll go talk to Xiao Wu." My cousin said, "Yes, you are just as stupid anyway." Lu Ligan chuckled and walked towards Wu Rongui's office. His cousin and Guanbei moved the unfinished wine and unfinished cigarettes into Guanbei's office. Lu Ligan walked to Wu Ronggui's office. Wu Rongui was sitting there reading a book. When Lu Ligan came in, Wu Rongui looked at him and said nothing. Lu Ligan sat down opposite him and said, "You encouraged me to buy the power plant. You must help me next." Wu Rongui closed the book and nodded, "I will do my best. It's not about trying your best, but telling me what you know without reservation. Didn't you say that what you said before didn't work? It works now, and your words will work with me in the future," Lu said the Pole. Wu Rongui was stunned for a while, then nodded and asked, "What do you want to know, Boss Lu?" "Let me tell you first, we have decided to do the new hydroelectric generator you mentioned. Even your brain doesn't know about this matter now. You just have to know it in your mind. You can help me prepare the things that need to be done." "Get ready," Lu Ligan said. Wu Ronggui's glasses flashed behind his eyes and he said yes. "But this is the second step. The first step is to change the entire place first, and then stabilize the team. The most important thing is to increase everyone's income first," Lu Ligan said. "Of course, you've already blown away all your bullshit." Wu Ronggui's mouth twitched. "I'm not bragging. I said I would increase wages for everyone. I will definitely increase them. Even if the company has no benefits, we will still increase them. We will use our own money to advance them. Even if the new hydroelectric generator brings benefits, we will increase them. I can afford it." I know you are rich." As soon as Lu Ligan finished speaking, Wu Rongui nodded and said. Lu Ligan was surprised and asked, "How do you know we have money? Aren't you originally engaged in real estate? Your land is free of charge. I know the cost of construction and installation. The selling price is there, and the area you allocate to Partia is also public. This is a simple mathematical question. Let's calculate it and it'll work out," Wu Rongui said. Lu Ligan almost blurted out, "So you're not stupid?" Unexpectedly, Wu Rongui said. "I'm not stupid, although they all call me Wu Fool." Lu Ligan laughed heartily. After he finished laughing, he looked at Wu Rongui and asked, "Are you investigating me?" "No," Wu Rongui said, "you are interested in me, and I am also interested in you. I want to tell you that the 2 words you said before about being polite are very good. I have always hoped that everyone can be polite. I'm angry, but few people are polite to me. I will be polite to you," Lu Ligan said. "I know, so I'm going to tell you now what questions you want to ask me," Wu Rongui said. Lu Ligan was surprised. "Do you know what I want to ask you?" "Of course, Lu Ligan quickly waved his hand and said, "I know you're not stupid. If you were stupid, I wouldn't come to you. Tell me, what do you want to tell me? You came to me to ask if there is any way to immediately reverse the current situation of the power plant, right?" Lu Ligan looked at Wu Rongui. What the hell is Wu Rongui? He is so smart and extremely smart. Lu Ligan nodded. "Of course there are ways," Wu Rongui said. "Although the current machines are old, I said that if they are well operated and maintained, they can continue to create benefits. The first one is to establish a set of duty and operation procedures so that everyone can follow them. Follow the operating procedures. If you don't follow the procedures, you will be rude. Second, reduce the downtime due to machine failure. Because the machine is old and ready-made spare parts are not available, now, even if a screw is broken, it has to be found in a factory for special processing. The wait is 10.5 days. But in fact, spare parts that are prone to failure can be predicted. We can find factories to process these spare parts first and keep them in the warehouse. In this way, once it goes down, we can replace it in half a day at most, so it won't cause long downtime." "Great," Lu Lipol slapped the table and shouted. Wu Rongui opened the drawer of his desk, took out a piece of paper, handed it to Lu Ligan and said, "This is the list of easily damaged spare parts. I have already written it for you. Lu Ligan looked at Wurongui blankly, and after a while he came to his senses. He said, you can arrange the processing of these spare parts. Can you help me arrange the processing? Thank you Tian Wei 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 and Hu Hu for the reward. Thank you to Tian Wei 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 Wei, Hu Hu, Bolan K, Purple Wei, no future, just remember the original intention, Win San Liu, Ju 11, De Ji Lao, Book Friends 201808030256355047, and Reader 1297873838407110656 for your monthly votes. Thanks for all the votes and reading. I wish you all a happy life. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1761. Next, Lu Ligan started the planning and construction of Hongling farmhouse. It was a small place and he couldn't find a good designer. At this time, Lu Ligan missed Zhang Chen and the Canadian Jacques. As long as there was one of them, here, we can definitely design Hongling farmhouse into a first-class tourist attraction in the country. Unfortunately, Lu Ligan couldn't contact them. He could only design it himself and try to turn what he had in his mind into reality. The cousin called back two plasterers who were working in construction companies in other places, and a construction team was formed in the village. One of the two was in charge, surnamed Wei. Lu Ligan called him Lao Wei. This construction team was born because of Hongling farmhouse and Hongling power plant. In the next few years, they will work here. As soon as Lu Ligan thought about it, they started working, from below the dike to above the dike, then to the reservoir, and then to the surrounding mountains. The work to be done seemed to be endless. Lu Ligan's design was not to draw some renderings with pen and paper, and he couldn't draw. Instead, he and Lao Wei stood at the scene and told Lao Wei his ideas. Lao Wei understood. Let me tell Lu Ligan again. He is right. Once he explains it clearly, he will know how to do it. If neither of them could understand, they would squat down, each holding a branch in his hand, and draw on the dirt until both of them had the same idea, and Lao Wei understood what to do. Lu Ligan leaves early every day and returns late every day. Before dawn, he drives from the town to Hongling Reservoir. When he returns to Qianqian supermarket at night, it is completely dark and the moon is above his head. He first pushed down all the walls of the power generation workshop below. At the end of the river, he used an iron fence to completely separate their territory from the outside. A gate was set up at the entrance. Inside the gate, Hongling Farmhouse and Hongling Farmhouse Whirling Power Plant and Hongling Reservoir are a whole, and there will be no walls inside. The wild grassland next to the factory building and the large area under the embankment are connected as a whole. They are all used as parking lots. During the construction of the parking lot, Lu Ligan borrowed the parking lot of Jacques in the Sanya World Tropical Botanical Garden. He planted rows of trees in the parking lot. Summer will be the time when Hongling Farmhouse will have the most guests in the future. Lu Ligan thought that if the guests parked their cars here, they would not have to worry about their cars parked underneath to be exposed to the sun when they went to play or eat. Lu Ligan built a 3-story building on the original piece of grassland, near the foothills on the right. This is their staff dormitory. The dormitory was built here to accommodate the two houses above. They can all be demolished, for the same reason. The dormitory is right next to the factory. You can't come down when the machine is beeping and go up to play mahjong when it's not, right? Lu Ligan asked Lao Wei to renovate the original factory building inside and out. The floor was painted with epoxy floor paint and air conditioning was installed in the workshop. Lu Ligan thought that this place would also be one of the tourist attractions in the future. How can it not be pleasing to the eye? In the 3-story dormitory building, Lu Ligan decided to install air conditioners in each dormitory. Braincase and Wurongui both said that it was not necessary. How much electricity would that require? Lu Ligan smiled and said, we generate electricity ourselves. Are we still worried about the power consumption of air conditioners? Just use it. Wurongui disagreed with Lu Ligan's statement. He said, according to your logic, wouldn't the workers in the banknote printing factory not worry about money? Just take it. Datakei is still the director of Hongling Power Plant, and Wurongui is the deputy director in charge of technology. Lu Ligan and Wurongui said, I am not good at technology, but you are not good at management. Do you know what the art of management is? I don't know, you teach me, Wurongui said. Lu Ligan said, the art of management is that when you spank him, you must remember to rub his butt, or rub his butt first and then spank him. Wurongui was stunned, and Lu Ligan walked away with a smile. Wurongui sat there all afternoon thinking about Lu Ligan's words. He also took out a pen and paper and started writing. He wrote spanking on one side of the paper, and rubbing butt on the other side, and then began to list which things Lu Ligan did were spanking and which were rubbing butt below. Improving the working environment and living environment of workers and installing air conditioners in workshops and dormitories are definitely rubbish. A new staff canteen has been built, and the food now is much better than before. This is also a butt rub. Everyone has really raised their wages, and the lowest worker's salary is indeed higher than that of the mayor. Of course, this is even more embarrassing. At the spanking place, Lu Ligan not only installed air conditioning in the workshop, but also installed monitoring systems so that all workers in the workshop must follow the operating procedures written by Wurongui. He told Wurongui that you just stay in the office and watch. Monitoring, if there is any violation, wages will be deducted directly when wages are paid. The evidence is conclusive and he has no way to deny it. He also told the workers that if you don't follow the operating procedures, you are being rude to me. If you are rude to me, don't blame me for deducting your wages. We are all adults and we all know what to do. You should do it. You did it wrong, I won't even remind you, I will just deduct your salary. If you feel that your salary is insufficient every month and you are not convinced, you can check the monitoring system yourself to see what you have done wrong. If the monitoring system does not capture your violation record, you can come to me and I will make up for your salary. Here it is, and I apologize to you. Wurongui felt strange. Why could the problem of brutal operation that could not be solved within a week after the surveillance was installed? Not only has the problem of brutal operation been solved, but now that the machine is broken, everyone is very energetic and quick in repairing the machine. The work that used to take several days is now completed in less than half a day. The generator is roaring again. Everyone knows that when he was working, there was still one eye looking at him. That eye belonged to Boss Lu. Is it okay if he didn't work hard? The labor protection work clothes that had not been issued for several years were now being distributed again. Wurongui didn't know whether this was a spanking or a butt rub. Of course, the ones being issued now were not labor cloth work clothes, but blue khaki cloth. Lu Ligan invited the owner of a clothing factory to measure each of them, and made 2 sets of spring and autumn clothes and summer clothes. In addition to the clothes, he also made hats and distributed shoes. When winter came, Lu Ligan said, we also need to distribute down coats to everyone. Down coats? Listen, which unit in Ningyuan will distribute down coats as labor protection supplies? Lu Ligan told them that in the future, our place will not only be a power plant, but also a tourist scenic spot. In the scenic spot, the most beautiful thing is not only the scenery, but also the people like you. How can you be untidy? This requirement to dress neatly made Wurongui confused as to whether it was a spanking or a butt rub. The boundary seemed to be getting blurry and blurred. Wurongui could no longer write. He felt that there seemed to be some dialectical relationship between spanking and rubbing. Sometimes, he felt that Lu Ligan was too strict with him, especially for him. Lu Ligan even had to control his glasses with rubber glue on them, and Lu Ligan had to ask him to replace them. Wurongui repeatedly explained to Lu Ligan that it was not because he was poor that he could not afford new glasses, but because he was used to these glasses. Lu Ligan ignored him and asked him to get in the car. After Wurongui got in the car, Lu Ligan Lipang took him to the optical shop on the street in the town and asked the Wenzhou shop owner to give Wurongui a pair of glasses. Lu Ligan also specially chose very fashionable rimless glasses, and he made sure Wurongui put them on. After Wurongui put them on, he felt that the prescription was just right, but when he looked at himself in the mirror, he looked weird. Lu Ligan also said, "This is consistent with your status as deputy factory director." With that said, Lu Ligan took Wurongui's pair of black-rimmed glasses from the counter and held them in his hand. They broke with a click. Wurongui shouted and it was too late to stop him. The glasses had been split into two. Lying in the trash can. Lu Ligan and Wurongui said, "I'm sorry, I broke your glasses. This pair is what I compensate you for." Wurongui wore this pair of glasses. Although his wife said they looked good, it took him more than a month to get used to them. When he looked at himself in the mirror, he gradually became more human-like. Wurongui pushed up the glasses frame out of habit, and poked the hole with his finger. He was startled, and then he remembered that the wide glasses frame had turned into a thin one. Wurongui shook his head. Wurongui admired Boss Lu a little. He felt that although this person had never even gone to college and his academic qualifications were not high, his perspective and vision of looking at problems were always so unexpected. This was something that others could learn from. Not coming. Wurongui and Lu Ligan discussed the issue of workers' wages. Wurongui said, "You raised everyone's wages as soon as you came here. Are you trying to win people's hearts?" "No," Lu Ligan said, "I want to make this job more valuable and decent. Only when it is valuable will everyone cherish it, and only when they cherish it will they take it seriously. Think about it, if this job can only be paid in a month 100 yuan, but no one takes it seriously. They think that this kind of crappy job will be gone if you don't have it. It doesn't matter. If a person has such a mentality, if you take care of him, will he obey you? In this world, most things are of equal value. He feels that this job is valuable. Only if you talk to him seriously about your job will he take it seriously." Wurongui observed it and found that it was really like this. In this place, everyone used to work slowly and pickily, but now they have unconsciously changed, and they don't know where it started. It has become completely different. Same. Boss Lu arranged for everyone to plant trees. This was not everyone's business. Everyone went and had a great time. Boss Lu arranged for everyone to put fish fry in the reservoir. This was not everyone's business. Everyone went and did the same thing. I was very happy. The most exaggerated thing was that a few people were playing mahjong in the dormitory. As long as Lu Ligan shouted "It's time to work" from downstairs, everyone stood up immediately. After thinking about it carefully, Wurongui understood what Lu Ligan meant by making this job more valuable. Everyone felt that since you received such a high salary every month, it was normal to do more work. If you don't do it, it would be you. You are welcome. Now a person's workload is 3 to 4 times that of before. Wurongui suddenly realized that although the salary was high, the company was not actually losing money. Lu Ligan walked in. Wurongui pointed to the paper in front of him and asked Lu Ligan, "Why am I getting more and more confused? Tell me, what is the dialectical relationship between spanking and butt rubbing?" Lu Ligan glanced at the piece of paper and said, "It's very simple. Just rubbing without beating will not make you remember. If you beat without rubbing, people will only remember you and have the intention to kill you. Only beating and rubbing is just right, making people feel painful and happy at the same time. Only then will we make progress. Thank you." Quadratic VC, 3 o'clock in the middle of the night, 2 fishes, one above and one below, baby tin soldiers, flipping through books every day, and ranking third from top to bottom for the reward. Thank you Zipanjiang 1, and How, Mao, Book Friends 201711192342199749, Book Friends 201811072356299095, Pialing Yau, and Lao Shenzasang for your monthly votes. Thanks for all the votes and reading. I wish you all good health.